Call to order the Tuesday, February 10th, 3 p.m. School Board Workshop. Please rise for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by our national anthem. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Ramirez, present. Ruddy, present.
Furry, present.
Christy, Chong.
LaShakia Moore.
Do we have any additions or changes to the agenda?
We do. Today is a jam-packed agenda. We want to be able to start with item 12.02 to be first, and then follow the order of the printed agenda with item 10.02 being last. And then one additional adjustment is that when we get to item 18.01, that we do 8.01 and 18.01 at the same time. So 12.02 first, we will follow the order of the printed agenda, moving the insurance update to be last, since we want that to be the majority of our time together here. And then item 18.01 will be moved up to after 8.01.
18.01 will be after 8.01.
Yes, please. We have asked our team to be very precise and to point so that we can use the majority of this time to have a discussion around insurance.
Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Furry, second by
Ms. Ruddy.
Ruddy. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None. Motion carries. All right, 6.01, is there anybody for public comment?
No, we don't have any public comments.
12.02.
Okay, so we'll move on to 12.02, Mr. Freeman and Mr. Board. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Chair, Board, Superintendent Moore. This afternoon, we have a local mitigation strategy resolution to bring forward to you. This is a multi-year jurisdictional plan that allows local partners in the county to maintain eligibility for grant funding, such as the hazardous mitigation grant that we have used in the past. To remain eligible for these grant programs, we have to submit this every 5 years, I believe, Jonathan. And this is our 5th year that we'll submit it, and this will be the last one for me that I'll submit. So, pending your questions or comments,
All right, let me just wrap my head around this. You're saying this is something that has been ongoing, and we had, if I'm remembering correctly, updated some of our agreement documentation through Lavinia. So is this on the, has this been modified to that, or is this because it's a legacy will be on the previous contract? Or am I out of the ballpark? It's not the same thing.
I think she's mixing like proportionate share of some of the adjustments that we've made for that.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
So when she's, with the resolution made her throw
yes,
in that with her.
yeah, this is totally different than our hazardous
Okay.
mitigation plans that we have that follow our local mitigation or our ILA.
Uh-huh.
And this is dealing with grant funding through FEMA.
Okay.
Yeah, so these are funds that after a big disaster, like such as a hurricane or even COVID, the federal government allocates back to the counties
Okay.
a percentage of the funds of that disaster to help make that community stronger again. So if you have another similar disaster, hopefully it won't be as impactful. In order to be eligible for those funds, the local community has to have a local mitigation strategy. It's, as you all saw, it's quite a thick document, approaching 200 pages and then some of material, but every 5 years, the county updates that, and then every other jurisdiction that wishes to be eligible to participate in that grant program has to also adopt the plan that the county adopts.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
We've used these funds in the past for generator repairs at Rimfire, Benell, some fenestrations on some windows. We have partnered with
Wadsworth as well, I think,
Yeah.
did some stuff in the windows.
Wadsworth. So, you know, we want to be able to keep doing this and getting grant funding.
No, absolutely.
So basically, from what I gathered from it, this allows us for, if we need to, use FEMA. So that's what this is basically.
Yeah, if you want to take advantage of a specific
Yep.
grant program.
Yep.
So if there's a disaster, you incur costs from the disaster, you don't have to do this. But if you want to go after this grant program that helps make the infrastructure stronger and hopefully not as impacted in a future disaster, then we do have to have this particular document.
It's helping us, I guess,
Qualify.
prepare our buildings
Yep.
so that they are willing
Yes.
to cover us.
Yep.
And just being proactive, so with renewing and, yep.
Yeah, the majority of the grants under this have a 75-25 match, but certain larger events like COVID only had a 90-10 match. Every now and then, there's no match, but that's super rare in today's world that the federal government doesn't require a match.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you so
Right.
much.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Scoot back up
Finance.
7.01. Finance. Starting with Imagine Charter Schools financials.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon,
Hi.
Madam Chair, board members, and Superintendent Moore. Mrs. Bush and I are here to answer any questions you have on finance consent items.
Any of them, or just, or?
Starting with 7.01.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. It's okay. We'll move on to 7.02, purchase orders over 10,000.
Yes, I see that we're paying a good chunk of money to Stepping Stones. Obviously, I looked them up in order to determine what services they might provide. And it looks like they're for some additional ESC services. So what specifically does this organization do that we don't have in-house? And do we have an idea of the total amount of funds we're using for that particular area?
Sure. That would be a question for Dr. Halliday. Dr. O'Brien, thank you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, board. This is primarily to pay for school psychologists, and we do have some, you'll notice some of the services are provided to our private schools as well.
Well, okay, so that is my question here. First, I believe the amount was over 200,000 for stepping stones. Is that the right amount? I'm sorry, I didn't
Yes.
write that down. And previously, we had discussed that we're not yet at the expense that it would make it feasible to pay somebody. So how many people, units, does that $200,000 buy us? For example, is that the work of 3.4 school psychologists? And so, you know, if we actually took that to hire a school psychologist, we'd only be able to get 1.5 for that. Can you explain to me how that's still a cost benefit?
So we previously had school psychologists out, well, we still have the allocation if we were to be able to fill it. We were having a recruiting issue when we lost some school psychologists. I believe there were 8 allocations. I don't have that in front of me. Not sure if.
So when
you
was
know,
the
Ms.
last time
Wormack.
we've tried to recruit or fill those
It
positions?
has been posted continuously, and so
Okay.
we've had to fill it through contracted services.
Okay. And when we post it, is this something that we're actively trying to recruit? You know, with our job fairs, in addition to the teachers, are going to specific events that surround these
Yeah.
the folks of these services?
Yeah, we've actually, we've posted on several different platforms, and we've gone to NASIP and FASIP, which is the Florida Association. We've even, you know, paid to advertise on those platforms as well. That particular position falls in our bargaining unit, and as you can imagine, has a lot of education and credentialing required for it, and so oftentimes the pay just isn't quite as competitive.
So I remember learning about that, and we talked like last year. So what was the reason that they are in the bargaining unit? Because I know we took nursing out of the bargaining unit. So I feel like I've been told 2 different ways, because that was one thing from the very beginning, because they, you know, the salary matrix, but you have to go through bargaining. So can you let me?
They're
remind me about that?
certified instructional staff, so they would need to be, you know, certified staff to be in the bargaining unit. And what we've done is added differentiated pay or like a stipend within the contract to try to make that a little bit more competitive in terms of wages. But oftentimes, you know, psychologists can work at a higher hourly rate for a contracted company and also have a much more flexible schedule, work from home, and so it's a tough position to fill. We are not alone. We've reached out to our NEFEC districts. We're, you know, it's a similar challenge that Florida districts
And I know that could be a
face.
different day and a different topic, but they're considered instructional staff, but I just don't see, but that could be.
They don't have to have a teaching certificate.
They are in our bargaining unit, and what we can do is we will have Mr. Ouellette write to you the steps that would need to be taken in order for us to consider bringing those individuals out of the bargaining unit.
Yeah. Do we have an idea of how many service hours we're getting for that $230,000?
We could find that out.
Yeah,
I don't
that would
have
be
it.
great.
I don't.
I'm
have
just
it
trying to get
in
an
front
idea
me.
of like,
Yeah.
how many students are we serving
Sure.
with that money? If that's comparable, if we were to have full-time people, that's one thing, right?
Yeah, it's not
But,
detailed
you
on
know,
the purchase order, so.
I'm also looking for an aggregate because, you know, I'm seeing this, we outsource with a lot of companies. There's also counseling services that we've had, ABA credentialed people. We just posted another one of those. The other element you said there is that we also service private school with this. And so do the private schools in the area also contribute to the cost of this?
So it's through the proportionate share funds that are allocated to private schools, and we're required under child find to evaluate.
To evaluate? I'm sorry?
To provide evaluations for them,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any others on purchase orders?
I just wanted to clarify the NEFEC risk management insurance of over $2 million. This is for workman's comp and property insurance.
Yes.
So we pool together with the NEFEC districts in order to have better competitive pricing for property insurance and workman's comp?
That is correct.
Okay, but we do not currently do that for health insurance.
We are
For risk.
self-insured.
Right, but you
Yeah,
can
we
still
do not
pull
currently do that.
for risk on self-insured, correct? Okay. Let's see here. I also wanted to, and I'm sorry, I didn't write down which ones are on which. The DOE spending that of cap dollars that we sent back.
Sure, that was $308,000 of the CAP grant that is overseen by teaching and learning. I'll have Mr. Reeves come up and speak
Super.
to that.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Board, Superintendent. Ms. Ruddy, I sent you a response earlier today with your request of information. I'll share with the Board as well now. So the CAP grant, which is the Workforce Capitalization Grant, was a 2-year grant from 2023 to 2025. And during that time, we had an initial request of approximately $273,000, and then that was extended and amended to include another approximately $300,000 over and above the initial request. And so during that, we spent approximately 73% of the initial request, just over $216,000. And that purchased things like a truck, a Ford F-250 for the agriculture, trailers, related materials and resources for agriculture, and our carpentry classes, as well as our veterinary class. And very specific and targeted when the grant was written, so it was only targeting those 2 industries that are also vital to our local economy. And so those funds could only be dispersed into those 2 areas, included veterinarians because of ag. And we were granted that opportunity to do that. So there was an initial disbursement about $74,000, and then another one that followed about $188,000 about 6 months later. And then lastly, we received the last installment of the increased amount after that. And so we were dispersed our dollars as best we could. We could not spend all the dollars that we wanted to in that space, partly because we had a transition in our department of our CTE specialist who left us to go to Seminole County, and changed them all in finance that impacted us as well. And so we spent about $100,000 on our carpentry classes and the balance with our ag, including fencing to upgrade the farm and things like that.
So just to clarify, you're saying that the industries that had to be focused on this grant, because all grants you have to write what you're going to use that money for, how you're going to expend it, and has to be very restrictive. So you're saying agriculture and
Carpentry.
Carpentry.
Yes, ma'am.
And so we spent, you said 73% of the initial distribution.
So about $216,000.
So, but altogether, then we spent about 50% of it.
About that, correct.
So
A little less than that because about $300,000 was returned.
okay. So I'm really at a, I don't want to, I don't want you to think that this is directed towards you.
No.
It's just, this is frustrating to me, right? Because the number one thing we hear is that we need more classroom to careers programs. We're out there asking for this money. We're working with, poor FTC. They're dying for money like this. We're asking for it with the Rural Renaissance, and this doesn't bode well if we've asked for money in the past and couldn't spend it. So how can we avoid this in the future? Because I can't, there's 1,000 careers that we could think of under agriculture, and that we didn't maybe incubate something or do an A/B test on what might be interesting for our students.
Sure.
I'd like to know we can't do anything about it now, but what can we do to avoid this in the future?
Certainly. And just to be clear, FTC received funds as well, and it's through this grant opportunity, and they had their funds as well. This is separate from FTC.
Yes.
And so when our CT specialist focused, it was to try and focus on these 2 programs. One, because agriculture needed to be upgraded, and I worked with Mr. Freeman on just our facilities and space up there, so we purchased quite a bit of materials to upgrade the fencing and secure that, as well as tractor supplies and equipment for them. I think lessons learned is a couple things. Better earlier vetting on our vendors and the procedures for that. When we initially went to finance, we thought we were in a good space, and then after that, got some clarification with Ms. Whitmore, meeting with our vendor to kind of walk through that decision-making process, and we thought where we could have piggybacked on a procedure which we normally do with contracts that wasn't allowable in this situation. And so we didn't find out until later in the game. It was about February we started to pivot from that, and then we're told about Amazon, which is one of our primary providers, and it took a couple weeks on that. And so there were some timing issues that took place, but we purchased significantly through Amazon because of a provider to help us in that space. But I think also when we're looking at our programs, what I'm working with our current CTE specialist now is what, instead of just asking for dollars, specifically what's going to be the impact of that for us moving forward, and making sure we're being targeted and intentional about, as opposed to just asking for more money, if that makes sense. And I think when by doing that and looking at how we're applying those CAP grants to workforce grants, because that is still an ongoing grant option for us, we did not apply this year because we had this situation that just occurred to us with a new CTE specialist. And I asked him, Mr. Evans, to familiarize himself with our programs across our district, and then him and I plan to meet to talk about next steps as far as how to target specifically, as opposed to making large purchases of just supplies.
Right, but you know, in a grant, you outline those goals for what the funding is for. So I'm assuming with this grant, you could not use it for salaries or things of that nature in order to maybe bring in some subject matter experts in this area?
It was not, to my knowledge, based on that. It was about how to increase your programs or to create programs in specific fields.
Mm-hmm. And did we work with any consultants in this area? Maybe our workforce development program, or?
Well, we targeted programs that were specifically aligned with our local economy, which is agriculture and construction. And then we went and hired a grant manager to assist in the space, only to learn after working with Ms. Whitmore and Ms. Wormack that the process that they were following to piggyback in other districts wasn't applicable to our district and how our procedures are in place, and therefore was not an option to us to expend those dollars in that manner that we outlined.
Okay. So sounds like we've got some action items to work towards when we apply for another grant. I'm disappointed to hear we did not apply this year and didn't have a solid plan with this. This is an area where our community is eager to have us grow in. Our students are eager to have us grow in. So let me know if I can be of any service to help.
Sure. And if I can clarify, the grant was required to be submitted last May, right? And so our person just came on board in March. So for him to be able to have 6 weeks to fully vet and especially our CT program.
I guess my thought is we should be an octopus organization, right? Not top down, but flexibility, where we have arms where people work together to get the job done, and we have a robust staff in the teaching and learning department. I bet you if I pulled 10 teachers from our schools, they'd be able to write a grant that would probably be pretty amazing with that money. So, you know, that's, I think sometimes we have to find some alternatives, right?
Certainly.
Thank you. I appreciate your answers.
Okay, let's move on to 7.03, vendor payments.
That was fine.
Okay. Anything else on vendor payments? Let's try to stick to the agenda here.
The only thing, thank you, staff, for all the answers to my emails. The only thing I just needed clarification, the Memorial Hospital visits, or whatever it is that you can, I just normally don't see a lot of those on there, so I wasn't quite sure if that was something specific to anything.
Sure. The payments for, that's Advent, basically, that was for athletic training services. What had occurred is that they failed to bill us last year, so we had to catch up on last year payments once they realized that they didn't bill us, and then catch up on the first half of this year. So that's why you see so many of those payments in that December pay run. So that was an error that they brought to Superintendent Moore's attention and my attention as well, and sent us the documents, and we.
Yeah, because I never see that, so I was like, oh.
It's normally paid quarterly.
Okay.
So you won't see it again, and maybe 2 more times this year.
Okay. And then Continental Airlines, is that, I didn't get an answer on that one.
Continental American,
Or,
not airlines, right?
is it airlines or, sorry, I'm looking at my notes. Continental?
It's Continental American.
That might be it, yes.
Similar to another question a board member asked, that is a company that provides benefits to our employees. That's most likely life insurance. And so what happens is our employees elect who they want to get this supplemental benefit from, and the payments are deducted from their paycheck twice a month, and the wires are sent out twice a month to several different vendors.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay. 7.04, deletion of inventory. Seven point zero five, finance budget amendments. 7.06, district financial statements. 7.07.
I will talk to this one briefly. This is the annual audit of the district's internal accounts, which is the internal accounts of the schools and departments. This is the audit ending June 30th, 2025. I will note, as you look through this report, there are some findings in there. To that note, if you look at how many items were sampled versus how many exceptions there were, it is an improvement from last year. That being said, there has been a lot of turnover in bookkeepers, so a lot of these bookkeepers are not currently in these schools and departments. And this report, once approved by the board, will go back out to all of the principals and supervisors for their review. They have already been notified during the audit process of these findings and signed off on applicable data.
With regard to that, last year we talked about potentially looking at some positions where through attrition we could do some sharing programs, bookkeeping possibly being one of them. And so is there a particular reason we're finding that that role is not conducive to sharing between some schools for cost-saving measures? So that's question number one. Question number two, we're saying that some of the turnovers, what's maybe triggered some of these items, which, you know, anybody new in their job is going to have things, especially something as very exacting as this accounting. What kind of onboarding and training is provided for our new bookkeepers?
Sure. Let's go back to your first question.
Sure.
Can you, what do you mean about sharing?
So it was last year we had at some school board meeting, I was requesting that we take a look at some positions that perhaps could be shared between schools. For example, a bookkeeper being one of them, where they service part-time between two schools to save some funds. But it sounds like, you know, there were new hires, and so that's not one of those roles that seemed like that's a potential candidate.
I will talk to this to the extent that I can, and then I'll hand it over to the superintendent. The bookkeeper position at schools does more than just bookkeeper. They're used to fill in with the front desk, car rider lines, things like lunch duty. That's not something that finance would oversee. I can tell you that the biggest complaint we have had from bookkeepers is they don't have enough time during the day to do their job. So that's not something that finance would oversee. That is more of a school-based admin that would control what their duties are. I would tell you if we asked a bookkeeper to share between schools, it probably would not go over very well, just knowing how much they are demanded of. In the elementary and middle schools, there's one bookkeeper per school, and they are required to do both the district budget and the internal accounts, whereas the high schools have two bookkeepers for one internal and then one district. So, and rightfully so, based on the volume, but the work is the same across the board. So that's the extent I can answer that. Do you have anything to share additional?
No, I would just, what I would add is that we have identified positions and areas that we can save costs on as an organization, and as appropriate, we've implemented those cost-sharing measures. And as we go into the next budget cycle, we'll also do that same again to ensure that we're able to have a balanced budget, as well as be able to save dollars so that we can make sure that we're in the healthiest place fiscally. And we do that every single year, and we've been successful at doing that. So sometimes the cost sharing is not necessary, or the cost savings isn't around sharing a position, but maybe through attrition positions that we hold back on, and those things, in order to ensure that we can keep our budget balanced and that we can save dollars to ensure that we're in the best place fiscally.
As to your second question, Ms. Ruddy, the comments, like I said, the audit comments are better, but just for clarification, these audit comments were under bookkeepers that are no longer there now. It's not the new bookkeepers.
And whether, thank you.
Yeah, and so I'm not sure if you're aware, but going to the training piece, our finance department saw 100% turnover this year, and we lost pretty much all of our staff and had to rebuild. Unfortunately, fortunately for me, but unfortunately for the schools, several of our new employees came from the school's bookkeeper positions. So we had ongoing training for 3 or 4 of these positions of the people who used to do the job that were now in finance, single-handedly training them for 2 to 3 days a week for several weeks, a few months. We also have a higher level staff person who used to be the bookkeeper at Wadsworth, who is now, she oversees the bookkeepers and the internal accounts. So anytime we have someone new, she single-handedly goes out there and trains. Anytime there's an issue, she handles it. If there's anything she can't figure out, she comes to Mrs. Bush and myself. So the training aspect of it actually has really improved based on the knowledge from the school level that we now have in finance.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions on finance? We'll move on
Thank
to,
you.
I believe it's 18.01. Thank you. Mr. Owlett and Mr. Owlett.
So at this time, we're doing 8.01, and we will do 18.01 during this time as well.
8.01.
Good afternoon, Chair Chong, Vice Chair Furry, members of the board, and Superintendent Moore. Firstly, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Peter Drolet, new coordinator of purchasing, just because I'm a new face to the board. I come before you today to ask the board to approve the Evaluation Committee's recommendation to award request for proposals number 26-01 for telecommunications service, voice and internet, and contract with United Data Technologies Incorporated. The Evaluation Committee was held on February 9th, 2026 at 1 p.m. The committee cited the following reasons for their recommendation: a robust and resilient network design, great point of presence demarcation architecture and geographical diversity, good approach and detailed support team, a clear routing plan, and a highly comprehensive solution with a solid understanding of the project scope and needs. These services will be funded in part through the federal E-rate program. The federal E-rate program provides heavily discounted telecommunications services to nonprofit private schools, public schools, and libraries. The E-rate program is part of the Telecommunications Act of 1996. The E-rate program provides discounts of 20 to 90% depending on economic need and location. The level of discount is calculated using the percentage of students eligible for participation in the National School Lunch Program and geographical location. Flagler's 2025-2026 calculated discount is 80%. The current telecommunication service provider is ENA Services, LLC, and the current agreement expires June 30th, 2026. The agreement was established by RFP 22-10P. The district currently pays $670 per month for a 10 gigabyte access circuit with ENA Services, LLC. The total contract value for this is $120,000 $600 minus the 80% E-rate discount, leading to a charge for $24,150 for the district. Under the proposed contract from United Data Technologies, the district will pay $1,520 per month for 2 5-gigabyte internet access circuits with basic firewall service included. The total contract is $273,600 minus the 80% E-rate discount, bringing the contract value to $54,720. We currently contract basic firewall services with ENA Services LLC as well, but separately from telecommunication services. We pay $2,000 per month for the basic firewall services by itself, as that agreement did not use E-rate funds. This item will come before you for approval on the February 24th agenda. Do you have any questions?
So we did request for proposals for these services?
Yes, we did.
And they were the lowest bidder? Is that how we selected them?
They were not the lowest bidder. We received 4 submissions. They were not the lowest bidder, but they did choose to go with this because it fit the scope of work the best. We had altered the scope of work from our last contract, which is why the pricing is different. We wanted more resilient network design with 2 points. So if one point had gone down, there was another point of internet access that we could route through. And also we included the firewall services in this, which brought the price up. This was not the lowest bidder. The lowest bidder was Metro FiberNet LLC, but they had certain reservations. The evaluation committee had certain reservations with the technical specs of their firewall and certain aspects of their proposal.
Okay. And previously, what were we using for the firewall technology?
That was contracted through ENA as well.
Okay.
But at that time, it was not set up and included in the E-rate eligibility platform.
Right.
So we have worked with our E-rate consultant that we utilized to kind of redefine what our scope of work was. So basic firewall service is an allowable service at this time. So in changing those scopes, those costs now are eligible with this new scope for E-rate discount.
Okay.
So now they're included, and now you're going to see that the dollar, the value of the 80% of that roughly $2,000 now is coming through federal dollars rather than local dollars.
Got it. Okay. Thanks for the clarification.
So just for my understanding, you're saying that the original internet provider also provided our firewall?
Correct.
And so now we're separating our internet from that original provider, but we're keeping them for our firewall?
That is not clear.
Okay, so who's the
They're
firewall that's?
both services because
With the-
they're required to come from the same vendor.
Same businesses, okay.
Correct.
Well, that was I was like, that
Yeah,
doesn't seem that
it's
works.
for E-rate eligibility, it's required to be from the same
Okay.
vendor and billed monthly.
I'm sure, did you guys take a look at things like outages? You know, what's their
Absolutely. I
uptime?
think
Do
the-
they slow when you hit a certain data point?
All of those points are addressed in the RFP, but I will tell you, you know, from hearing everyone else's comment and mine personally, the piece that you come back to is the resiliency piece. When you look at the opportunity that this proposal allowed us to look at, essentially what we're doing is placing a 5-gig internet pipe at Matanzas that then goes to Atlanta. And we have a 5-gig internet pipe that's at the Government Services Building that goes to Miami.
So they're separate.
So, and then we're able to use our backhaul, which is Pongo's FiberNet, and then the co-location facilities that are there. So we could lose, one site could go down, Matanzas could go down, and all of the sites then could be pushed out for access from the Government Service Building, and vice versa.
And it's
Or-
not unheard of, right? The
No,
last 2
it-
years, we've had some
Yep,
major
yep.
outages on the East Coast, and I would imagine that a lot of our safety measures and hardening of our schools
So-
rely on some of the internet
Absolutely,
access.
and more, that's the direction everything's going. I mean, we don't have a bunch of servers sitting, you know, in our data centers any longer, but we also then rely on a lot of cloud services. So this is really kind of the next step to put some additional resiliency into those systems. Because on the same note, all of those systems, backhaul and some other pieces are included in this. But ultimately, it gives us a more resilient network to allow some of those outages. So there's last year when we had some issues, I think it was back in November, there was a major outage in Orlando area. Well, the current provider, E&A, our DMARC location to the POP is actually Tampa. So that fiber goes all the way through Orlando to Tampa. So when there's major disruptions in those, that can happen. On the same note, essentially the North Circuit will essentially go through Jacksonville up into Atlanta. So, there's always those vulnerabilities when we're talking about fiber optic and underground. The random, somebody ran into a telephone pole and we dealt with the power or whatever in Bunnell the other day. That can affect fiber as well. So having one point of something to kind of watch to, and we've continued to look at this, I think, with the inclusion of the basic firewall in this proposal, the configuration that was offered by UDT is just very, very robust.
Right.
Will give us some opportunities to ensure that we have access even if we do have an outage.
Yeah.
And we're leveraging the redundant capability that is built into the FiberNet network as well.
So with the backhaul, when things are working well, do those resources share across with that? Is that the reason for that, to connect those two pipes where if there's a higher demand on one side, they could pull the bandwidth from the other?
We can do some of that internally, yes. But basically, the default configuration for that portion of the network is our schools on the north side go to the north co-location facility, and our schools on the south side go to the south co-location facility. And so we're essentially routing those on the shortest path. So the shortest path for, let's say, Belterre and Indian Trails is Matanzas High School. Let's say Old Kings and Bunnell Elementary School would be to GSP.
Okay, and it's 5 gigs each
side, yes. So essentially, we're still maintaining 10 gig total connectivity. Example would be if one of those happened to be cut or offline, we would reroute the traffic and then we would put QoS standards in place. So we would limit bandwidth on certain types of network traffic for the time being. So example would be like streaming and those kinds of things to ensure that there's enough bandwidth for phones, communications, our LMS system, safety, security, cameras, etc.
Gotcha.
And when transition occurs for the new vendor, is it pretty seamless when it is like going forward and ready to go, like transitioning between one to the other?
I mean, there's always concern. There's going to be some construction to work through with this. I mean, there just is. But UDT has been very successful with the implementation. The other option or the other opportunity that we plan to take advantage of is there's some contingencies within the E-rate program to allow us to utilize the existing contractor for roughly 3 months possibly. So that is kind of a backup plan so that we would still have the opportunity to have internet access if there happens to be some sort of issue and or delay.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Okay. All right, now I believe you're moving on to 18.01.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So before Peter starts, I want to add that this item is a part of our normal timeline for requesting an RFP, which is separate from any of the conversations that we're going to have today around insurance. And so we just wanted to make sure that everyone in the community understood why it's all separated. Okay.
I come before you today to seek board approval to advertise an upcoming request for proposals seeking healthcare consulting services. The last request for proposals for these services was coded RFP number 20-05. It was awarded to Brown & Brown Florida Incorporated. This agreement with Brown & Brown has no available renewal options left. This prompted the decision to seek a new RFP to find these services at the best value to the district and to ensure compliance with applicable procurement regulations. This item will come before you for approval on the February 24th agenda. Do you have any questions?
If, what I'm concerned about is that the scope of work on the RFP may modify or change if we bring in this interim forward a vote, and if that vote passes, to contract with Fleet. And so talk to me about our ability to modify the scope of work after the fact if it needs to happen.
And I guess my only interjection with that is I don't know if it would be a modification of this existing RFP as much as it would be standing up a separate RFP aligned with the initial agreement that would be signed with Fleet to, look into signing a contract. At that point, we would get with them because they would have the specs on that one. So in other words, this RFP, and I'll let him speak to the details, could at some point become null and void should you decide to move in another direction. We just would not stand up the committee to select the final vendor.
Or we could modify it, because in some of my consultation with Fleet, there could be some services that we want to still contract with another party, but under maybe the terms that are required under the trust.
The only difference with that is those folks, for example, if we move forward with this process and we had vendors go with the existing scope, they may want to drop out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
we could just not award, resubmit our RFP.
Mm-hmm.
Where we are right now is Brown and Brown is month to month with us.
Mm-hmm.
They have agreed to go month to month with us, but we also don't want to just continue to linger on that. So
right.
we do have Fleet going forward. We do have an RFP going forward. We are able to adjust our scope in the event that the board goes in the direction of Fleet. But remembering that with Fleet, we're going into an engagement with them. We have to be accepted into different portions of
Right.
Fleet as we go. So it starts off with the PBM and then it
Right.
moves forward as they evaluate us as well.
And so that would definitely affect this, because maybe in year one, we'd say we need this menu of services. In year two, it would drop to this menu of services, year three, that kind of thing.
Exactly, and the only concern is if we don't start moving forward, then no matter where we end up, there are serious ramifications for open
Right.
enrollment and, how we start off the next year
Right.
with whichever direction we go.
If I may, we are able to withdraw the RFP and modify the scope if the scope drastically changes, or if it is minor tweaks, we are able to issue addenda on the current RFP, which would affect the timeline slightly, but the RFP would still be out and we could modify certain details.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Owlett.
Thank you very much for the
Thank you very much.
update. Appreciate it.
Come on forward.
9.01, Mrs. Swaggerty.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Board, Superintendent Moore. I'm here today to introduce a memorandum of understanding with CareerSource, Brevard, Flagler, and Volusia. And this would permit CareerSource to provide workforce development, career readiness, job placement, and related services to students enrolled at Flagler Technical College, and further the district's education mission and service through the whole school district. And so they are closing their office location here in Palm Coast, which is located currently across from FPC High School. And this would allow them office space to continue to serve our students in cooperative manner. And so we believe that the things that they have committed to provide to Flagler County Schools and Flagler Technical College, the provision of career assessment, workforce readiness, job placement, employer engagement, and supportive services constitutes adequate consideration for the district's in-kind provision of this space. The specific location of the space would be at the Carver Center in one of the classroom spaces on the upper second story.
So we're letting them use this space without charging them.
Correct.
And what are the additional services they're going to provide for us specifically that they're not currently doing?
So they are currently providing services to us, but with the closing of the Palm Coast office location, this would allow them to continue providing those services.
I guess what I'm struggling with is this career source organization, this is the same one that I believe last year spent $80,000 to update a Daytona office. And then this is the same organization under which we are one of 3 counties. And so they're going to close the office in the county that has the highest unemployment rate of the 3 counties that they serve.
They are closing the office, yes, ma'am.
Okay. But yet they're going to get free rent from us.
Now, didn't we used to give them that space for when we had a partnership for the Roads of Success, the upstairs there?
This is somewhat of a continuation of that with additional services. So within this commitment, then they also agreed to social media advertising to promote Flagler Technical College, the Carver Center, and district events. Event invitations to students for career source events, an internship program expansion for our students, special event participation, employer engagement through business liaisons, career assessment and pathway planning, job placement services, work readiness workshops, labor market information sharing, and then what would also be the same would be co-enrollment of eligible students into the Next Gen program, which is the same funding source as the Road to Success program was for out-of-school youth.
And so what additional services are they providing through this MOU that they weren't providing before? Is it the same or are there additional?
The additional services would be to promote Flagler Technical College, the Carver Center, and the district events across digital networks, including LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. It would be the internship program expansion assistance specifically, and employer engagement through business liaisons. The other services existed currently.
Did they have with this marketing essentially that they're going to provide us, is there a certain number, a frequency, an equivalent in-kind dollar amount so that we can hold them accountable to that?
There's not a dollar amount specifically listed in the MOU. Ms. Murphy is here from Career Source, Brevard Flagler Volusia, if you have specific questions that I can't answer specifically.
Yeah, please come on.
And I wanted to ask, so was FTC evaluated for space? I know probably there may not have been space, but I'm just wondering, for these services, they're used for anyone, so it doesn't have to be a Flagler County student. It can be anyone in this county or any of the other counties. So,
yeah.
But if they're focusing on utilizing the Carver Center space, or geographically space, FTC would be more beneficial to focus on our FTC students, or FPC, or our students. So is that space evaluated just?
The space,
to be
it would be nice to have them on our campus specifically, but the space is not available.
Not there.
What is available is at the Carver Center, and it's at the heart of the population that needs these services the most.
Okay.
And so we're confident, based on the relationship that we have had already with this merger, that we'll continue to get services for all of our Flagler students, and then also in addition what's laid out here in the memorandum.
Would you be open to having a dollar amount listed in terms of the equitable amount of in-kind marketing that you're offering within this MOU, and to have some numbers relative to goals on the internship expansions, some data that we could say, look, this is what we agreed to in exchange for this space?
Yes, we can definitely look at that. Our budget has been cut by about 30% over the last 5 years, so we've had to look at our infrastructure, and I just wanted to give you guys a background. We're developing talent hubs where we go where the students are instead of them having to come to a career center. In Brevard County, we have a talent hub with our adult ed, and in Brevard County, we just opened that, and Eastern Florida State College, they've given us free space there to help their students. So it's really about the new strategy is going to where the customers are. And although we've offered a lot of these services, being there on site makes it a lot easier. And one of the things that we just opened the talent hub at Eastern Florida, and one of the things that is really helpful is to meet with the staff. The staff meet together and talk about how they can, utilize services and work together, and having those meetings, regular meetings, which is part of the MOU, is really valuable and important. We can put together some in-kind, depending on the services that we would market would be services around job and career placement. So any events that you have, we have a very robust social media through LinkedIn and Facebook in all 3 counties. And we can, put together something like that for you if that's what you would like.
That would be great. And I agree with you that being on the ground is beneficial, but I see this as an extension of the guidance services that our counselors might provide. And being at the Carver Center is, a whole space removed from where the students actually are at FTC, FPC, Matanzas, that kind of thing. Okay. So is your office planning on making some site visits?
Yes, we also have business services folks that work with our companies. But yes, we can do that. That's not a problem
I
at
think
all.
I would like to see that in the MOU
Okay.
as well, a certain number of site visits at each of our FTC, FPC, and Matanzas. Thank you.
Can I ask where does your budget come from and your funding?
It's all the federal government.
Oh.
Yeah.
So with the Carver Center, we host a lot of, and when I say we, it's, Flagler schools, but also our PALs, which, we're affiliated, and then the community, a lot of events like focus with children, things like that. So I know workforce development, it's not just Flagler County, it's the entire county. So I'm just thinking with safety, is there set hours? I didn't see anything on the contract, you guys will be there Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, or weekends, evenings, because there's wrestling there, there's boxing, volleyball, lots of things, special needs kids. So I'm just trying to think, what is safety? Just things like that.
So we had planned to just be there with the staff, which is the regular working hours.
Okay.
And that's kind of the plan right now. But we work with Eastern Florida. They close on Fridays. So we've worked with that, and then if you have long holidays, we work with that, and those staff can go work somewhere else during that time. We would never be there without the Carver staff being there and present.
Is anybody using that space now? Are we displacing a program or
We are
anybody?
not displacing
Okay,
anyone
so
currently.
okay. And then my other question is when you made the decision, I'm assuming to close this office, I'm sure it was for budgetary reasons. If it wasn't at this location, what was your plan B and C?
We were going to ask to talk to the county.
Gotcha.
That was our plan B.
Gotcha, but there weren't any other options on the table right now?
No.
Specifically for you to relocate to?
Right, and we could have also reached out to businesses, but our number one choice was Flagler Technical, and being where the students are, that's really what we want to do.
Okay.
And Ms. Ramirez, to finish answering your question, everyone who comes through the Carver Center will also go through our Raptor system where safety is concerned, is your question.
But for workforce development, I thought anyone, because it's online, if they want resumes, job assistance, they can.
Not including online services.
So
But anyone who comes to the physical facility.
Okay.
Would go through the Raptor system.
Okay, similar to Engagement Center, if someone just walked in, they have the
and when we have hurricanes and things like that, and open shelters.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very
you
much,
so much.
appreciate it.
Okay, Human Resource Services Consent 10.01. Mr. Owlett, Mr. Reeves, Auditorium Director, job description.
And Ms. Fulmer is here. We'll invite Ms. Fulmer to come and be a part of this discussion if there are any questions that you may have.
Chair Chong, board members, superintendent. I'm here with two illustrious folks to share with you a red line copy of the Director of Auditorium as one of our esteemed folks exits the stage left.
Board, I shared this with you last week, the ongoing process and the timeline of events. Very collaborative, working with Ms. Fulmer, Mr. Roulette, Dr. Bryan, as well as the board from the auditorium, and having meetings ongoing as we go through this process together. Any questions that I could maybe answer, we can answer for you.
I have a comment. I really like the addition of the K-12 visual and performance arts, because this past year, I know you've been really trying to get more involvement with the elementary and middle and high school. So I really liked seeing that. And then my only question with that would be, do you think that potentially in the future this would have to turn into 2 roles because that could be too much? Or do you think, like, has that been thought about? Because I do love that. I think that is perfect for...
Part of it was trying to capture the work that, as you know, Ms. Moore's been doing for the last couple of years. Her work came under teaching and learning. And so as we started collaborating together in this process, we were looking at everything she was doing, and there was a lot of things that were not listed. And so we took the time to list it, and where under the performance indicators, we kind of separated out because some things were intermixed. This is a lot, and when working with their board, concerned of finding someone to meet those qualifications, Ms. Fulmer has provided us some links and information to do a stronger national search to find someone that can help in this space for us as we expand that job search for this. So it could potentially, I suppose, one day, but right now we fund this position through Flagler Schools, and so this is where I kind of came up with.
On the flip side, this role does have the board that helps manage some of the financial aspects and accountability, right? So, it's not a one-man act, one-woman act.
No.
But I do like the addition of the K-12 support as part, our organization is about the students, and so I think that's important. But Ms. Fulmer, your evolution of the program and, just stewardship and collaboration with us has been invaluable. And we're going to miss you. You've really, you've really done some wonderful things. And, many of these items you've been supporting, while it hasn't been hard written in a contract or anything, you've been very open. And so it's good that we're getting this documented. But I do have some, reservations to Ms. Ramirez's point. You're looking for somebody who supports performance, has an understanding of how to teach students in visual and performing arts, but then on the third spoke of this wheel, it's almost like we're asking for business management degree as well. And those 3 things are probably a difficult mix to have. And so I might recommend that, similar in what we did for the Chief Human Resource Officer, maybe one of these elements we say, or working towards maybe some training or certification in that area. For example, K-12, there may be some very, or performing arts-centered people may not have that business piece, and vice versa. So we might want to consider that in order to keep our options open as well.
Absolutely.
I think A serves B in many ways, because B is about relationships with our community members and engaging them in what happens with our students. And so by adding A, you're creating something that can work in partnership in that position. I do agree about the business side of it, but the Auditorium Governing Board does also some outsourcing for marketing, but you do have to have someone with a little bit of a business mind
Some
to understand
savviness,
how to
right.
oversee all of that, or some succession plan to that.
The board has, I believe, nearly 3 positions now that are, there's a social media, there's booking, and
We do print, show
Print.
bill, we have someone that takes care of that part. And then there's also someone that does social media marketing. We're working towards changing the way they do bookings to create, using an agent that gets paid through the performers rather than.
Mhm.
So we're trying that for this year. They've contracted her for this year to go out and find all of the acts. And that's been kind of nice to take that off of me. So that will be, hopefully, that's something they can look at into the future as well. That takes a great deal of time, but they have to know our people and our audience and engage with the board to choose things that are appropriate for the community that will also make revenue that in turn serves our students.
The question would be, as we move forward, at the pleasure of the board, if we could perhaps post this a pending board approval, and we've done that in other occasions with other positions as a red line document. So I guess that would be something that we.
When is the anticipated vacancy date?
July 31st. Is I believe in the
Yes,
last
I'm
name,
here
July
till July 31st.
But it is a unique position, so we would anticipate an open till filled advertisement.
And right now, we have it going forward for the February 24th. And so I think that we can stick with that timeline of the February 24th. Identify if the board approves any adjustments that are made, and then we'll be ready to go for February 25th. Posting.
Sounds good.
Ms. Fulmer, we're very grateful for you. She does such a great job at staying in touch with all of us, and we're going to really miss you.
Absolutely. Missed, and at the time serving on the board there, it was just wonderful to see how well you and the board members engage. And I will say that is a board that's invested in making the auditorium great. And Amy, you've been a great leader in that charge. Thank you for that.
I highly recommend the little book of boards.
Very good.
Thank
All right, thank you for the update there. Okay, so now.
10.03 fleet, Mr. Owlett.
So board, at this time, we do not have any additional information to present related to fleet. What you have on the agenda, it represents the comparison of our current services that we're receiving, and then the analysis that's prepared by fleet. This was a request from a board member to get this on, so this is coming before you on February 24th. Request for approval or not, just a decision of the board. So you've now had the presentations, you had an opportunity to ask questions individually. We do not have any additional information at this time.
So we're going to be bringing it forward to vote on whether or not we're going to go forward. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Okay, we will move on.
I think I just want to underscore and make sure that, for the benefit of people listening and stuff, because we're going to be talking about some insurance items, Fleet is not an insurance company, right? We are self-insured. They are not Brown & Brown. They are a trust that works on behalf of school districts. And they work through the Board of Superintendents, is that correct?
The program is under FADS, which is the Superintendent's Association.
Right. So essentially, they work for the superintendents. They do not work for pharmacy or health insurance. They're not going to make money from discounts or other things that they negotiate for us. It's a fiduciary. And where it doesn't take away our ability to self-serve. In fact, that is a requirement of their program. But just like earlier we heard that we pull for risk sharing when it comes to property insurance, we could pull for risk sharing when it comes to healthcare. And the organizations that work with them must comply with certain stipulations and regulations in order to be a part of Fleet. And they want to. Why? Because right now they have 9 counties and growing. They know they can get the business of 9 counties with one agreement, as opposed to sending salespeople to county after county after county. So there's a lot of benefits, and we see in the cost benefit here that these are the kinds of things that it's uncomfortable, right? So these are some alternative, non-traditional decisions, but we're now at a moment where we need to make some non-traditional decisions, or else we're going to, be in a situation where our health insurance is going to be even more unaffordable, or, God forbid, we have to provide a stipend so that our people can go find insurance, which is not what a premier organization is all about.
And I wanted to, or
Well, I just, there's one thing that is, again, a lot of what they've presented is speculation of these things happen, and that I'm struggling with how much actual benefit we received, that we receive out of Fleet, out of the gate, because we already have self-insurance. Most of the districts that have come in have come out of a traditional insurance plan, moving into self-insurance, and that's a lot of the large benefit that they are presenting to school districts. And right now they have, we have 67 counties. They have 9 in it right now. And the other component that just, again, is something that I'm still trying to evaluate is the demands they put on the brokers that we choose. Because they have certain requirements that they have to come in. They have to say, we agree to do we agree to do it the way Fleet wants it. And my only concern about that is that, have we evaluated, does that limit our pool of brokers that we can work with that say, hey, maybe we don't our business model does not align with Fleet. So in theory, I like the concept, right? Bargaining collectively to get more purchasing power as a state. But at the same time, there are other mechanics in it that could end up taking away that benefit. So I'm just putting that out there, that these are some of the things that I'm trying to wrap my head around before I make a decision on this.
Thank you for really digging in and giving this some deep thought and analysis. And, that's what it's all about, asking all these questions, because these are big decisions. And, our HR folks here can answer this, but this is something that I specifically addressed with Fleet when they came. I said, look, we're much more mature than many of the counties that you serve. Now, their model isn't that, hey, we're just going to help people go through the transition to self-insurance and then they're not needed anymore. They require that because they know that the way their business model works, it makes more sense financially. But in terms of the broker piece, my understanding is that it's within the triumvirate of resources that works under Fleet. There's 3 components, 3 arms under Fleet. Those services may have, and I don't have the current contract of what Brown & Brown or the comparison, it may then be optional. And so that would potentially be another savings. It depends on what we would see we need out of another agency, if we need that at all.
Yeah, one of the things that was concerning, and I have not validated this in documentation, but it appears that most of the people that join Fleet end up going with their recommended broker because that broker already has agreed to the terms, right? And so I don't know, maybe they're just offering something great, or are they finding challenges with other brokers so they go to their default, right? So that, I don't know if that's the case. I'm posing that question. Is that, why is that?
Because the scope of work is very different,
Right.
is to that point. The scope of work that you would be going out for a broker would be very different if you were to go with Fleet.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And to answer your question, Ms. Ruddy, about the initial savings and costs, what they're saying right now, it would be $133,000 is the savings. Now, that is with the board putting in additional monies for Fleet versus your current broker.
Right.
Right?
Essentially,
And I
we're
think-
transferring that money from one pot to another potentially, and that if there's still services we feel that we need from Brown & Brown, because again, we're self-insured, right?
Remember,
So-
it's not necessarily going to be Brown & Brown, because
No,
we're
well,
going up for
right.
our RFP for
Correct.
our broker. And so we first would have to identify, are there brokers that are willing to bid on what that RFP will look like? But to be transparent, when we look at where we currently are, our current consulting fee for Brown & Brown is $115,000 versus the $357,000 for them. To Mr. Furry's point, when we look at other counties, I think we don't have a lot of the fluff some other counties have. And so when you think about the commission that is assumed on a normal contract, the only commission that Brown & Brown, for instance, is getting is $18,000. Now, when you look at what is just from the lens of Fleet from theirs would be about $94,000. And so there are a lot of different, I think when we look at the two side by side, it is going to be a greater cost to go to Fleet with the savings that they're projecting right now is $133,000. However, we can't necessarily compare that to our current broker, our current services. I'm not going to say broker, our current services, because our current services does not use the model of what the savings
Correct.
is. So it's kind of swapping from cost to savings back and
Right.
forth, and that's the part that you as a board just kind of have to sift through, and I just want to bring that to the public.
There's also the part where Fleet, they will negotiate, let's say, pharmacy prices and things, and
That's inclusive
that
in there.
rebate goes to us and not necessarily, within their organization, which my understanding, and I don't know, we can ask Brown & Brown if that's something
So
that
we
we do, or
currently
if we
do,
split it with
no,
them.
we currently do get our prescription
And they give us that
rebates.
back.
We do get
That's
prescription
amazing.
Over $1
rebates,
million?
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
typically it is over $1 million that we get in that,
Excellent.
in that
Yeah.
prescription rebate.
And something that I'm still evaluating, as I'm sure all of you have been, like, this has been top of mind for a while, because there's a lot. It definitely is not, an apple and an apple. I mean, it's like a unicorn and a dinosaur.
Right.
But, here's, and again, potentially you guys have been thinking and evaluating this further still, but, so the risk sharing with medical. So as of right now, and I know you all probably had meetings, obviously, but, it hasn't started yet, the risk sharing, but there is intent to start shortly. Our district, they're in different tiers. So our tier, we would be in that first tier. And so this is what I'm still looking into, because that tier, it's based off of population. So we're in the smaller district. So we are in the first tier. Then there's another risk share that will be the second tier, and then another risk share in the third tier. We're in the top. Right now, as of when I had the meeting, I think there's 6 that are in that would potentially be in that first tier. So, just trying to figure out, okay, risk sharing, the amount that we would be putting up front is, just the pros and cons financially of being in that smaller bucket with a low amount initially, right? So these are just things I'm evaluating, and then also.
Right, but we're also contributing a smaller amount than, let's say, if a Miami were in.
Well, yes, but when you,
It's relative
if
to
you
the
look at
population.
what we're
Right.
contributing,
You have to
it's
create
actually, it's a lot from what, you know, this is going to be a big chunk. But, you know, it's almost like the lottery, right? You want to win, there's a big chance, it could work, it could not. So that's kind of like what this is. However, so that's one thing that I'm evaluating, which I'm pretty sure you all are as well.
Like, to be clear, what you're talking about is the timeline for you to join the risk sharing. You know, you want to ensure, like, the risk sharing at the,
Because that was
at
one
the
of the
last
priorities,
meeting,
why we wanted it,
Yeah, the
right?
last meeting, risk sharing was not yet, in
Available.
full available.
Yep.
Now, like, what is our timeline for joining risk sharing if we go into this agreement?
And then though, say we're all like, yes, this is it, we're gonna do it, we put the money in. Now, the time comes for risk sharing for everyone, which I think is coming up in the next quarter for everybody, because they're still working on the things they have to do to even do risk sharing. So when we get into our risk sharing, we're in a small bucket. It's like we're in this little pool, right, with other little ones. So you have to evaluate the risk. Like, is it really, you know, and that's what we're looking at. And then just the last thing that I'll say, the cost sharing or the cost savings that they told us about, the 277,000. If you asked or, you know, or talked to them more about it, for me, the cost sharing that they said, the two stories they said, they were with much, much larger districts that they shared. And then the reasonings of those cost sharing, it was, you know, one, you know, we have our wellness center. So our wellness center, those providers, if you go in with a heart condition, they're going to say, oh, you know, we can do an EKG here. But what they were finding at other districts, those wellness centers were there, but then the concierge services were saying, oh no, go to the ER and, you know, go to this cardiologist, and then it's out of network, this much, those costs. So someone was not doing something, I guess, properly and not utilizing their wellness center. So that's kind of on that district.
Sure,
or
that's some of the consulting that they provide.
But that's
right?
what the savings that they're marketing. So that's, I'm just still evaluating, and, you know, I have lots more questions that I have.
And we
for
are
them.
inviting them to be at the table so that you guys can have this conversation. We just did not have
Yeah.
anything additional to bring forward. They, you know.
And I just
them
want,
because
because
they
now
did
we're
have-
talking about it, you know, because we can't talk about it any other time. So from my perspective, I'm still evaluating because, again, it sounds really great for risk sharing, but then we would be in that first tier. And right now, at least from when I spoke, it's 6.
But I think it's fair to weight it, right? You know, like often when even health insurance itself, right? It's almost like a weighted, just like an actuary would say, well, this is your chances, your probability. This needs to be your equitable contribution to the pile. But in talking with other school districts, the only one that I've spoken to that has said that they made a decision not to join this so far was Pasco. And the reason is because they have such a tight relationship with their community health partners that they receive many times either free or low-cost health care through them, not just at their own clinic, right? So they have a much more robust, I guess, share program with their area health providers. That's, you know, Pasco's much larger. I don't know exactly what that contractual relationship looks like, but they have several, let's say, okay, our clinic, they had numerous, and I think they had something actually, I want to say like through a CVS or something like that, where if they went to the CVS or pharmacy, they got an additional, you know, savings with their pharmacy benefits. So I could understand somebody like that where, hey, they've got things under control. Their insurance premiums are ridiculously low compared to ours. They're not in the same position. So, you know, we're in a whole different position. So when we speak to other counties, be sure to say, well, what's the health of your current program? Who are you partnering with? What kind of partnership do they provide, right? I'm sure it's going to be a combination of things that we need to figure out to go forward, but this is, you know, I see this is something that more and more people, are, even businesses, are going to have to turn to under what's happening with the current cost of healthcare.
Well, I have some thoughts. You know, you have to look at the risk reward, and you know, when I look at what they're offering, and they say that hey, we would save about $100,000 in saving. $100,000 in millions of dollars of budget can be wiped out in 3 seconds, right? So it's not a substantial. If we were basing it on money saving, I don't even think it's even a consideration, because right now, out of the gate, it's not. It's really not saving us a lot now. And if we go in now, we are essentially being an early adopter, hoping that that the promises and their actuaries and the things that they think can happen are going to happen. And my concern is that we might, and let's give them the benefit of the doubt that they can get there, we might feel short-term pain by getting in too early. And another thing that is concerning to me is if this was so great, you know, we're wrestling with this here to try and come to a decision as a board. How come more counties are not jumping into this? And I really think that part of their pitch is baked in with taking districts into a self-insured model, and there's immediate benefits to them. They will likely see not just 100,000, they'll see a lot more. So even though, because this person is the person that brought it to their attention, walked them through the process to get them to self-insurance, they see, okay, well, this is just one more piece of that puzzle, where they could have done that same thing without Fleet. They could have gone to self-insured and probably received the benefit that Fleet presented to them even without them. But they're adding that in as a future value, and I really see that's probably why only a handful of districts have entered in at this stage. So these are, again, just some evaluations and concerns that
No, those
that
are
I
very
have.
insightful, but to keep in mind, they've gone from 3 districts to 9 in a year. So, you know, this is an early organization, to your point. The other piece is, Ms. Moore, I guess I'd like some clarity on the amount of the cost savings. There were larger numbers that were discussed, but my understanding is they can't necessarily put that down because it's not a right there immediate thing, because they'd have to essentially open our books in some way. Am I misinterpreting that? Because, you know.
So what is there is what's provided from them of savings that they can provide to us. All of that is there. Anything additional savings would be, maybe this is like a conservative measure for them, but this is provided to them directly to us. We did not alter any of.
So when they come next, I think I want them to address that specifically. And then I think to Mr. Furry's point is that, you know, is it that they're saving people by supporting them to go self-insurance? To me, that makes their program obsolete after the first 3 years,
Well, I will
right?
tell you, because they have said
So they've
that.
got to have a next phase.
Yes, they have said that for the districts that they are supporting to go self-insurance, the district that they're supporting to bring on a wellness center, those districts are seeing significant and immediate savings versus we've already done the work.
Right.
And so I'm not by any means going to say that I'm well versed in Fleet, but what I will say based on this and what the conversations they presented to us, where we would see savings would be in our pharmacy, our PBM, and then eventually, and I don't mean eventually in a derogatory way, but initially it will be through PBM is what they're projecting, and then it would be through risk sharing when we're at that point. And so my understanding is there are phases to what that will
Right.
will
And
look
that's my
like.
understanding as well. These people that go in, they're not getting these cost savings immediately, because actually to receive the pharmacy benefit and then the risk share, they have to be self-insured. So we're coming in at a later stage where a lot of these counties, and maybe some counties, well, they're not jumping in because you have to have a good number of reserves to be able to say, yeah, we're going to be self-insured now. You know, you've got to have the money to pay out those claims. that could be a limiting factor
Yeah, I
as
think
well.
it's all of those different pieces that we have to consider when we're considering something of this magnitude. It would be, and the reason why I pointed out the savings piece is just because we cannot look at it from, we gotta look at cost to cost. And then this provides, here's what the projected savings is, but a traditional broker, it's not gonna be presented in that way. And so I think just to be fair to any brokers that will be looking at it, we're not just looking, we're making sure we're making that distinction.
And that's what I think I'm looking for, is what is the timeline on the pharmacy benefit and that projection? Because that number that I had seen was substantial.
Just to also share my thoughts with the board. You know, I know that they're new, but for me, I'm like, I need objective data, and they don't have it yet. So it's a lot of buy-in. I like to see the numbers. I don't like to just have promises to jump into this. So.
And I think that they will be willing to bring the data that they have, and we will invite them to come and be a part of the board's business meeting, be it in person or make them available virtual, because I know that they are traveling across the state.
There was a meeting last year where they brought some data.
But
then they said that they were going to pull some exact numbers from ours. So I think that's what we would like to see, that exact presentation, but with our more specific data.
So what you see and what they've been able to come through, why they are able to look at a projected PBM savings is taking the information that we gave them from our contacts on what we currently have.
Yeah.
So that's how they were able to go through and do the 277,000 based on their own metrics.
Okay.
Things they've shared with us as far as risk sharing and being able to figure out just exactly what we would save, they would have to negotiate a stop-loss contract with us and probably be in agreement with us to participate before they are able to do that next hurdle.
I mean, to be fair, you're asking a consultant group to provide their consulting services before we contract with them.
And then one other thing I just want to point out is when we start talking about, say you go with Fleet, what would it look like for essentially the leftovers for a broker to take over? It would be what we would call a contract effectuator. So we would need those services. And when we talk with Fleet, trying to get a ballpark on what that would look like, they told us it would probably be pretty much in line with what we're currently paying Brown & Brown at 115, just based off.
In addition to this.
Yes, in addition to the membership fee and the capitalization fee.
Yeah.
So if we bring them back, I just don't want to spiel for an hour. Like, I'm serious. We need.
Yeah.
the
They
numbers.
really, every time they've come, I'll be honest, it lacks substance, and it's very hard. I need actionable information, and we cannot, take this aircraft carrier in another direction without knowing that, we're on the right course, because it's so hard to turn it back. And, the other element of this here is we're doing the RFP, and again, we have apples and oranges right now in dollar comparison, because that 100,000, again, we don't know what brokers are going to offer us just in the normal RFP, and we don't know. It may or may not affect the Fleet's demands. May or may not affect that quote. I don't know yet. But then that's just another layer of uncertainty. And when I spoke with them on the one-on-ones, it was basically like, you have to agree to come with us in a sense. Well, not fully, before we can tell you what else we can do for you. And I just that's problematic for me in that scenario. I think they're going about it wrong. If I was Fleet, I would be first going out and presenting my offering, go out to a majority of districts, get letters of intent, right? And then have come to a district like us, say, listen, we know you all are afraid to be the first in, but we've got, out of the 67 counties, we got 30 letters of intent. So that means that if we can get all these together here, then we can do cost sharing on a realistic date coming, right? Doing it one district at a time, everyone in the early stages is taking on greater risk, hoping that others are going to buy in later. Because if we don't, then the plan doesn't work. Because in theory, they're just saying, well, of course people are going to sign it, because it's always cheaper when you buy together. But not always, because you're always giving some freedom up or control up when you join a group, because you're going to have a board that oversees the entire program, and that that may or may not reflect the interest of each individual district. So now I know that we can choose our own insurance plans and everything else, that we have that autonomy, but the program itself, Fleet, it's going to have to be a one-size-fits-all on their sides for the most part. So again, those are just some additional things to consider.
I guess where I see it is that since this agency essentially is accountable to the FADs, which are the superintendents, that's less a business board and acting more of a fiduciary in our interest. And to your point, it would be great if they said, hey, we have all these letter of intents. I think the problem is that the companies that are working with them, they want to have money for the services they're going to provide, right? So what really impressed me was that the 3 companies that are working with them agreed to comply with their stipulations and their pricing limitations. And these are multi-million-dollar companies, right? So if the companies can see the writing on the wall, who, they're doing their market analysis, right? How are we going to make sure that we can still make money at a reasonable rate, where the pool doesn't turn into a sick pool and then it's an ever-expanding problem, right? That was also very impressive to me, right? That they agreed to some very clear stipulations that are not in their best interest.
Well, the other concern I have is that it sort of creates a monopoly for the risk-sharing insurance world, because right now there are many people competing within the state of Florida with different districts, right? So again, when you do these things, sometimes in the beginning, they seem good. They offer some short-term benefits that you can measure. What you can't measure now is that really there's going to be one risk share in their vision for the entire state of Florida, which eliminates all competition in the market. And once that happens, there are liberties that can be taken when you just have one. And that, so at any given time, there's probably going to be maybe 2 people every year, they're going to come up for bid every year or whatever it is, but you're going to see a market shrink in competition for the stop loss type of insurance.
I'm curious if that has ever happened, is that coming to realization in the property insurance world where there is risk sharing?
Well, in property insurance, there is.
It's hazard insurance, I believe, like hurricane and.
Yeah, but it's all, they're individual. There's no pooling.
Yes,
I think the reality is that they will work to get all 67 districts to join, and not all 67 will join because, as we've said, there are varying reasons why it works for one district versus it doesn't work for another district, based on where they are, the relationships that they have locally with their healthcare providers. All of those things are factors. Do we know that they are working for the benefit solely of school districts? Yes. Again, that doesn't mean that this will work for us versus it will not work for another county. And I think it'll be helpful to be able to have them at the table so they can answer some of our questions and our speculations, so that we're clear, as you guys go into the vote, and we'll have them here for you.
I think what might help if they are coming back, at least for me, so maybe the board, if we provide exactly, if you have 5 questions, like I know, I've been building up mine, that we have it provided to them prior to them coming, so we know that's what they're going to answer, because, our first meeting we had was over an hour, then we had them again, and it was pretty long, but it was a completely different meeting, in my opinion, and then we met with them one-on-one, but I think if we do have them back, because we have a lot, there's a lot that we need to do in this district in general. Like, we have a lot of topics, so provide it to them if that's what we want.
Well, I would hope that, I would imagine they're listening to this conversation right now. I've laid out all my questions and concerns here. I'm happy to put them in writing if need be, but I do
think
hope
that's
that
the
they come with
question.
some actionable information that we can say, okay, we can move forward with this, or those numbers are not, they don't provide enough benefit for us at this time. In theory, again, I like the idea, I just don't know if the timing is right.
So you want a 3-year projection? With,
At
and,
least,
and
yeah,
where
I mean,
they've defined the
a 3-year
assumptions.
projection would be helpful, but I've asked for that, and they've clearly told me that that's not available.
Because they want to get it specific.
Until we
yeah.
they want us to fully engage them first before they can do that. And there may be some data sharing issues there, I don't know, but again, I can't buy something and then find out what I bought afterwards, all right, or the benefits of buying it afterwards.
But what about the data of what, for example, what if they shared data of the counties that they're working with who, what they're saving after they move from self-insurance to the next
But they're
phase?
not doing the risk sharing yet, right? They're not-
Well, that's because our first piece is the pharmacy, and then
Well,
the risk
no
sharing.
one's doing
So
risk
the question,
sharing yet.
That's,
the
we're
question
getting that
is-
already. It's not, I mean, we are getting
Well, I'm
that.
asking, would that data suffice for you,
It's
right?
no, it's not enough, because those are the, again, we don't know what the next contract's gonna look like with our next broker too, where all these things are gonna come from.
Well, that's the thing.
I mean,
If
they're saying they
our
can
next
negotiate
contract would be totally
prescriptions
different.
better.
All right, board, for time's sake, can we move on?
Well, yeah,
Well, I'm trying to extract specifically the data that you want to have to be able to clearly make this decision and put
I
it to
want
them.
them, I'm the customer, right? I didn't seek Fleet out, they sought me out, us out, right? They came.
No, I sought them out.
Right.
I went and spoke to them.
Yeah, but we've heard from them before. So but Fleet is, they came, they have to convince me, they got the product, I'm the customer, come forward with the benefits of coming to your program, and you have to convince me. I'm not trying to convince myself to take this, to do anything. I want them to bring their best forward and convince me that they're the best direction to go to. If they can't sell themselves, I'm not gonna do it for them. And right now, they haven't
But
achieved
that's
that
the
with me.
question is, what do you want to see? Because
The
Let's relay
cost
that to
savings that we would
Mr.
see
Walker.
over time.
over at least the 3
A
years,
minimum
the
of 3
different
years.
phases.
But even still, it's all speculation. That's my big problem too. There's 2 layers here. I can make numbers up, I can do forecasts and everything, and sometimes they could be right, sometimes they could be wrong. But we're talking about going a whole different direction without showing that these things will actually come to
Well,
life.
and that's why I was wondering, what if they took the data of what the current, their longest running districts, what their percentage is? Because right now,
Yeah.
every data that I'm asking you, is this what you want to see? Is this what you want to see?
I
You say,
think
oh,
this-
even that,
well,
we're
because I'll
arguing
tell you,
against.
I
So
believe the sampling
is
is
it a
too
no-win
small.
situation for
All
them?
right.
The sampling is too
Let's
small.
relay our questions to Mr. Walker to follow up on
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
because I think we're just going back and forth now.
Yep.
Okay. 10.04, board approval of personal items.
I like that the ASD, helping out the students, that we see the need, and then we're filling that gap with that partial amount. So thank you for keeping up with our ESE students and those support roles. So, thank you.
Okay. We'll move on to 12.01, which is Davina Legacy Point Cottages. Thank you for walking us through all that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, board, Superintendent Moore. I bring to you the proportionate share mitigation agreement with Legacy Point Cottages. This is a project that has 22 single-family units in its plan, and it is set to generate about 6 students, 4 of which is in middle school and high school, and there's no available capacity at those school levels, so they are coming to us to mitigate. for those 4 student stations, 2 in middle school and 2 in high school. The total mitigation amount is $119,900. This will come to you at the February 24th regular session.
Is this north on US 1? Is that? Just trying to figure out where.
Is it, no, this is over
It
by
is-
Flagler Beach, isn't it?
Yes,
It's
it is
behind
Flagler
the,
Beach. It's the nearest intersection is John Anderson Highway and Wood Boulevard.
yeah.
So
This is
Old
behind where that
Kings, Buddy
church
Taylor,
is, that
FPC.
coastal, I think it is, or.
Okay, so
that-
it's
Where the
right on
Babcock
John
Furniture used to be,
Anderson?
remember that Babcock Furniture
Yeah.
building? There's a Shell gas station, it's right behind it.
And they are within the Old Kings, Buddy Taylor, Flagler, Palm Coast school zones.
Bless you.
And if you have any questions, I'm here to answer.
So previously, we had a discussion about the ability to track not only but the projected number, but how did that come to fruition? Did we make any progress on that?
The track, the
Or
actual
we had-
project.
Yes, like, you know how when we say, oh, we think there's going to be 15 kids from this development, and then afterwards, right, how do we identify, is that accurate? Are our numbers accurately reflecting how we're being impacted?
The student generation rates are based on the study that we had in 2024. We are ready to do that this year, and we're going to see if what we had in 2022 would be the same. 2024 would be the same this year, but we do have listing of how many students, and I'm doing that right now, how many students are actually being generated by this development. So I am not done with it yet,
Okay.
but I will have it
Great.
probably in a couple of.
So you mentioned that these schools that these students will hit are already at capacity. And so, you know, with this open enrollment that's happening, are we hoping that there's going to be some leveling out? Is there room at other schools?
Well, right now, what we're doing is, as the certificates of occupancy come in, we're removing them from the
That was
reserved
it,
capacity.
the discrepancy, right, yeah. Mhm.
So then right now, since we've removed some, we're at the level that it's probably doable. We won't need classroom additions or anything like what we did in Matanzas, but a lot of the reserved capacity that we have right now are from the DRIs, and based on our interlocal agreement, the reserved capacity that we have for those DRIs are still in our books, so we cannot remove them because it's part of the interlocal agreement. But if we are looking at what we have with regards to mitigation, they would have the capacity, because our actual utilization right now would absorb those school choice. And you have to look at when you would see a student come out of a development. Normally, it's about 3 to 5 years, and sometimes it would mature at the 6th year. So you would see those students at the 6th year.
But we make adjustments to the
Yes.
capacity, the availability, as these come on and as they roll in and out each year.
And correct me if I'm wrong, so these are developments of regional impact, is that the acronym?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So, and the issue is that these seats could have been reserved 10, 15, 20 years ago. These developments, they never got off the ground, but they're still entitled if somebody else wants to do it in the future. So like this project, they may be wanting to start turning dirt right away, but we still have these reservations from a long time ago that we have to be ready for if they do start the project, even though it's been dormant for many years.
Well, not only that, but the ones that were built, we have to state, did those students actually come into the schools, and can she remove them off the list? So I think that's what you were alluding to earlier, that she's working through that audit now.
We are removing them. The problem with the DRIs is, well, with the DRIs, they have entitlements, and like, for example, for right now, Town Center and Palm Coast Park do not have any reserve capacity anymore. We've cleaned that out. With Hunter's Ridge and Plantation Bay, there are some, because with Hunter's Ridge, there are still some developments that have not come in, so we're still holding on to them. But for example, they have, Hunter's Ridge is entitled with school concurrency for like 3,000 units. Right now, if there's any addition to the DRI, that no longer comes into our reserve capacity. It's just with what they are entitled with from the first.
So with Palm Coast Park, for example, which is off, I think, US 1, the sidewalk to the nowhere, some people call it. So you're saying if that development was to start again, or one of they have to do new reservations?
Yes, they will have to be subject to school concurrency review.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
And mitigation.
Right.
If there's no more capacity at the middle school or high school.
Got it.
Any other questions? So, we're going to take a 5-minute recess.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dina.
ask questions throughout. However, there will be a chance for the insurance committee to go back, make suggestions, recommendations, and changes, and there will be an opportunity for you guys to do the same thing in a closed session related to negotiations. And so this is not necessarily about us changing future plan development, but really around us presenting, here are some options going forward so that each group hears the same presentation at the same time, and we know that everybody's on the same page where we are, okay? And I do want to just say thank you to our union members who are here and a part of our insurance committee for being here. We do apologize. We thought that we didn't think we were going to be here at 5 o'clock, but well, we knew we would be here until 5 o'clock for sure. Thank you so much for being here.
All right, welcome, Ms. Boyle. Mr. Walker, Mr. Ellen.
Thank you. There's a lot to cover today, but it's nice to see you all.
See you.
I will try to get through it and be respectful of your time if you have some questions we have to answer to them along the way. So I will have you progress when we're driving for me. So, as you know, in the past couple of years, you all have taken a deliberate approach, as well as the insurance committee, to try to enhance the benefits offered to the employees here at Flagler Schools. You've opened your Employee Wellness Center. You were able to enhance the board contribution to a couple of the plans to try to get more dependents to be able to afford that coverage. And added a new plan design last year that I think was also a step towards doing that. But despite those efforts, we are seeing escalating claims costs still. And you're not alone in that. St. John's School is facing a 19%. Flagler County had to increase funding by 15% in 2024 and again by 8% in 25. Palm Coast, a client of ours, has 2 tough renewals, 21% in 2024, 12% in 2025, and we're pending their projection for this coming renewal in October. Volusia Schools was fully insured, or is fully insured, and left Florida Healthcare after over 30 years to try a new carrier, Curative, which is a disruptor carrier in the market, trying to do things a little differently, and so far things have gone well. They are going to have their first renewal coming up in October, but they have a rate guarantee for that renewal where I think it's an 8% that they know that they're going to have for that one renewal. So today, I would like to focus on several options to mitigate your increases. I'm going to talk to you conceptually about what levers we can pull initially. So to set your stage here, components of your self-funded plan, you have the pie chart is a good visual. So 67% of your costs in 24-25 were medical claims, with 24%. Your fixed costs represent 9% of your overall spend that you are doing. So far this year, we're at 71% for medical. So we've had some shift there between medical and pharmacy so far this year. Here is a look at your medical claims back to 2020. Now you'll see a step down in 2021 and then a rebound back up in 2022. We all know what that was. That was the COVID pandemic. So aside from that, we've had pretty steady increases. 8% is a trend medical increase. If you make no changes, you expect an 8%. And we've had 8%, 11%, 16.5%. That's not what you are funding. Premiums increase. That was truly your medical claims on a per member per month basis. Your pharmacy claims, similar stories. We've had some ebbs and flows there, but in 2024, we saw a huge spike at 30%, and then again in 2025, 12.4%. And that is directly related to GLP-1 utilization. So we'll talk about that in a moment. At the bottom, you could just have it together, medical and pharmacy. With claims through December, our actuary has projected the plan to end 12.3% over budget, which is about 1.6 million. So that is 1.6 million coming that we don't have coming in that is going out the door. 2 out of the 4 months have run over budget. There are 3 members with claims over 100,000. So before we talk about anything for renewal, there's one thing you can do now to address that and try to stop the bleed of money. And so,
and if I could just add, for this 1.6 million above, this 1.6 million would be dollars that will have to come out of the insurance fund, and anything that is over, that is not available in the insurance fund will be supplemented by the general fund. Okay, so if we continue to project this out this way, the general fund will have to kick in order to assist with our insurance fund because of the rise in claim costs. So just keeping that in mind.
I guess I'm wondering what's changing now, because several months ago, both myself and Ms. Chong brought up about covering GLP-1s for weight loss, where I stated that it's even unusual in the private sector for health insurance to cover it. And Ms. Chong brought up the now affordable version, which is sometimes less than what you're paying through the insurance. But at that time, it was stated it would be too disruptive. So now we're saying that, well, this is one of our big factors in mitigating our cost, and this is less than, I don't know, Ms. Chong, do you remember when that was, about 6 months ago?
I don't think it was that far.
Yeah.
Maybe a few months
So,
ago.
I don't know, that's the.
So what we when we get there, the recommendation.
It's on the next page.
Okay, perfect. I will respond. That question will be answered next page. Ms. Ruddy.
So there's a definition up there in case anyone doesn't know. But your current coverage covers for weight loss, but not general weight loss. It has to be someone who is classic or is diagnosed with morbid obesity or an elevated BMI, overweight with comorbidities like high blood pressure, sleep apnea falls in that category, high cholesterol and cardiovascular disease. So you cover it, but with some guardrails. However, to your point, it's overpriced within the PBM space. And you can get direct to consumer at a fraction of the cost. And what has happened since, I'm not sure if I was at the meeting whenever that discussion happened, but in the past few months, you now have access to direct to consumer, and we can pull out from your CVS plan or whatever pharmacy benefit manager you're with and get the direct to consumer rate for your plan, and you could choose to subsidize part of it. And so what we're looking at here is just kind of setting the stage, but on the next page, if we can go there.
We did over 500 scripts of
Wegovy. You did 710 total scripts, not individual people. So if you think of one person being on 12, yeah. But still a lot. So there were 710 prescriptions that represented $958,000 in spend. And that's because you're paying over $1,000 a piece for prescriptions, that now you can get direct to consumer at $349 for Wegovy, Zepbound for $299 to $449. The oral version of those are now coming out at $149 up to $299 for a stronger dose. So what we are proposing, which has not been presented to the insurance committee at this point, but what we agree would make a lot of sense is if you pull it off of the pharmacy plan, carve it out, say it's no longer covered through CVS pharmacy or on our insurance card. Instead, we educate the employees on how you do the direct to consumer, and there is a mechanism for you to subsidize it, so it would maintain the same cost today. So for the rest of the plan year, you're not taking away the coverage mid-year. It would still be $35, but instead, the prescription is sent whenever the person goes to get it. It is sent to the manufacturer, that's the filling pharmacy, and there is an electronic debit card that is funded by the district to make up the difference. So if you were to do that and assume the same utilization, it would cost $223,000 versus $1 million.
Now, this is just talking about the weight loss portion of it. For folks that use, GLP-1s for diabetes and things like that, that would still be a part of the pharmacy benefit and the medical benefit. We are looking at just targeting the areas as it relates to just having a BMI, which Flagler Schools, when you kind of look at other organizations, is an outlier in allowing that coverage for GLP-1s for weight loss, just based off of BMI with comorbidities.
And to go back to Ms. Ruddy's original question, we did not want to take a benefit away from staff, and we're not recommending right now that you take a benefit away from staff. We can absolutely go back, and we'll have to look at this for the 26, 27 year, but really the available options that are now available to us to be able to do
Well, I
that.
think that's what Ms. Chong had actually presented. You had that paper, right? That's, I think it was when it was released through the government, like you could get
The
it.
consumers now, yeah, you can buy
Yeah,
directly.
so we were encouraging the exchange earlier.
I think the missing piece was the mechanism for you all to subsidize
Yeah.
it to make it the
Okay.
$35.
Okay,
And
so
how-
that's
how
the
does-
difference.
And how does
Thank
it,
you.
so to the insured, it's the same process for them to get it?
No,
Oh.
because they don't show their card and
Uh-huh.
go to Walgreens or CVS to get their medication anymore. Instead, when they have to get a new prescription from their doctor, and this is also in the appendix whenever if you want to peruse later, they get a new prescription from their doctor, and that is sent electronically to the manufacturer.
And it ships
Okay.
from them.
And the employee pays for that medication with two forms. So they will get an electronic payment that is loaded with money from you all, and then the rest would be their own credit card to pay the $35, and then it's shipped directly to them.
So that card, though, that's the only thing that is kind of, is it restricted?
Yes,
So
it's truly only loaded for that.
And so no, they can't process that card
Correct.
anywhere else except
And it's not even a
with-
real card. It is
Oh.
like an
Yeah.
email
Oh,
that,
okay.
here's your money for your, whatever the direct consumer name is, and that's all they can
I had
spend
a
it
similar
for.
thing. I have eczema. So there was an injectable eczema medication, but I couldn't go through my health insurance. I had to get, it looked like a gift card. But it was basically money that the manufacturer provided, and so then the insurance would
Right.
provide it only because I had that.
And that's similar.
Otherwise, it costs $1,400 a
It's
month.
similar to
for
that mechanism, right?
Skin
And so
rash.
we have a vendor that does this for our clients, that's what's new, and it's RX Save Card, and there is information in your appendix about how the whole flow works, but it's working really well for clients, that you can pull that off of the pharmacy spend. And I just had a claims review with a large county that's a client, and they were sitting there with their insurance carrier at the table saying, why is it costing $1,200 a month when I can get it on my own for $350?
Right.
And
Yep.
why can't I do that here? And they said, well, that's just not the pricing we have access to under the plan. And they said, well, what about the new oral one? How much does that cost? And they said, the same price as the injectable. So there's no relief even through the PBMs
Yeah.
as of now on the significantly lower cost medication.
Can you tell me about this loss of rebates if we change that?
Yes.
What's the overall impact of that?
So you get $1 million in rebates, give or take, in a year. And by removing medications that are rebatable because they're a brand name medication, by pulling that out, you don't get paid the $3,000 or whatever the amount is on the rebate, which these aren't specialty meds. So I think it's probably like $600 that you get in a rebate.
It doesn't eliminate it altogether,
No.
it's just for
No,
this
and
medication.
it's a net savings,
And
but that
so
is part of the
we'd still have the net
calculation.
savings, even with the administrative piece of having to
Correct.
produce these cards and everything.
Mhm, Exactly.
Now,
Who
what
does
about,
it? Go ahead.
sorry, for type 2 diabetes, are we having the same issue? or-
So type 2 diabetes, I think still has to be filled under the health plan, but that is a great question. I haven't had anyone that's carved it out for that diabetes medication. It's been for the weight loss piece.
So is there an opportunity there? Is that,
I will research that for you and we will bring that
Okay.
back. I have not seen direct-to-consumer Ozempic the way that I've seen Wegovy and Zepbound.
gotcha. Okay, so just, I want to understand, just so it's so clear, so they go to the doctor, they get the script, the doctor doesn't send it to CVS, they send it to the manufacturer, okay? Then what's the next step for the patient, or, the patient? or
The patient, I believe, gets an email or something right there that has the code with their payment information for that medication.
Okay.
And it only works for that pharmacy.
Okay, so they'll pay $35 out of their own funds.
Correct.
And then the rest, they'll use that virtual debit card.
Mhm.
Okay.
So Ozempic also does have a similar thing that we.
Then I'll bring that back to you.
And then,
Some additional savings.
are we marketing, like, patient care assistant programs too? And I know that's more on the person themselves, but maybe that as a district, because a lot of medications that are very, very expensive, like
That is
personally,
that is
like
something that is on the next part of
$8,000 a
our
month or
agenda.
something, they have that but it's on them, but that's something we should probably look at too, to provide.
Your current plan with CVS Caremark, which we're out to market right now on your PBM, but with CVS Caremark, you have an automatic where they take the manufacturer's assistance for specialty meds. What traditional PBMs like CVS Caremark do not do is do it for just brand name medication. So you could right now be promoting the brand name medication copay cards. The other PBMs that we're looking at, and the one that's actually leading right now from a pricing standpoint, takes in consideration the brand name ones too and applies that as a savings to the plan, and the member has a reduced cost as well. So there are some disruptive strategies out there that can just try to get more and more of that savings for both the member and the plan.
But doesn't that affect the member's deductible? Like, if they're on the high deductible plan, there's even that little amount of pharmacy can add up and whittle away. That would not count towards that deductible, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah.
So they're not paying anything out of pocket, so it does not track.
So
towards that
we'd
deductible.
want to really target that towards the ones on the PPO.
Correct.
Okay. Just a curiosity, was there a full reconciliation of our PBM to find any other trends that are increasing above normal in terms of pharmacy?
Yes, your anti-inflammatories are the other cost driver. So things like
steroids?
Like Stelara.
Stelara, specialty medications that treat things like Crohn's disease and rheumatoid and psoriatic arthritis, and those are where we're really seeing
Okay.
it.
Are there similar programs out there for those?
Not for the ones that we don't have it in place. So, I'm sorry, there's two different things that we're talking about here. I was talking about biosimilars, so I'll take that.
I
for a
meant like
second.
similar alternative ways to
Carving
fund
it out?
Yes.
No. Those are $20,000 a month for a lot of those medications, and direct to consumer is not an option for something like that. But you do have manufacturer's assistance that we're tapping into that automatically funnels that behind the scenes to the plan, so it reduces the cost by $15,000 to $20,000 a year. But that's maybe like 1 month of the cost of the medication is what it averages out to.
Has anybody done anything where they've said, hey, we know that if you go through like a good RX, it doesn't come off of your high deductible, but is there something like creative where we could say, well, you can get 10% of it or something like that, where they would be incentivized to use that alternative kind of coverage?
Like a lower cost pharmacy, a place to get it for a better price.
Correct.
Yes, so we're gonna get there.
Okay, I'm sorry.
All right, so just
to kind of recap, that first section was really about, these are the things that we're going to do, this is what we're going to do in order to save dollars for this current plan. So just to be clear to everyone listening, the board is not removing any benefits from any of your employees. They're going through a different process. Their coverage will remain the same. Their costs will remain the same. It just will allow for us to go for an option that will be more affordable to the plan itself and the insurance fund.
And one benefit is that right now Zepbound, which is the one that is more effective out of the GLP-1s, is excluded under CVS Caremark. They partnered with Wegovy, with that drug manufacturer, and excluded Zepbound, which is why you have more Wegovy spend than Zepbound on your plan right now. Both of them have direct-to-consumer, so the employee could use either
And
one.
we've gotten feedback from our employees that have requested for the Zepbound to be included in the CVS portion. Okay, now we're shifting to 26, 27, some options that we have as we look at projections for 26, 27.
All right, so just to set the stage, we are, because of what we just talked about with the current year running over budget, we are looking at a 22% increase, but if you remove the GLP-1s for weight loss, that goes to a 17 million, or 17%, 2.2 million is still not a viable option. So what are some of the strategies we can do to get that down to something that's more manageable? The PBM changes focus on the lowest net cost for the medication, some steerage opportunity there. We have 8% pricing improvements right now, pending additional options. We will be We will be bringing that to the insurance committee and then the board at a future meeting. That is, 8% is about $290,000 in savings from where you're at right now. But when we say savings in pharmacy, and this is really important, it never means your costs are going down. It means if your claims were the same under your current contract, like CVS Caremark, versus this other one would cost 8% less. Pharmacy trend exists, so your costs are still going to be going like this under any PBM that you're with. But the pricing improvement is contract to contract, is what anyone that is selling pharmacy benefits needs to understand, is going to be a pricing improvement, not a savings. Like, we don't take $280,000 off of your projection. We do include that there is a premium or a savings, or if there's an improvement in rebates and we know that money is coming in, we can factor it in, but I just want to be clear on that's how it works. So we'll go into that in a little more depth in a second. The second one is a solution for certain high-cost claimants that is funded by charitable donations, and it is a program that was established because the CEO of the program had a wife that had a terrible medical condition and saw what it did to their family. They couldn't afford their premiums, their deductibles, their everything. Was able to start a charity, get charitable donations, and those fund people that are approved for the program. And so I have several clients that are taking advantage of it. The member gets free care for the whole year, no premiums, no deductibles, but we'll talk through the mechanics in just a moment. Plan design changes. So in the past, we've been able to impact your renewal increases by increasing deductibles, out-of-pockets, moving some things around within the plan design itself. That is shifting more costs onto employees, and I know that's not really where anyone wants to go when we are battling a renewal. So I have that up there because I have to show you that is a lever that you can pull. That is not where I would recommend.
Did we, so we introduced the standard plan, right? One of my concerns was we now had 4 plans as opposed to 3. And that, really trying to guide people towards those alternatives to the PPO. What did we see in our overall, did we collect any more people to purchase health insurance because we introduced that plan?
You did.
Okay. The next question is, we have an employee plus spouse, and family, or employee plus one child.
You have employee only, employee plus spouse, employee plus child or children,
Right.
and then employee plus family, which includes the spouse.
Have you had organizations say, well, the employee plus spouse, that may be because that employee, maybe our plan is cheaper, which, I don't know, or maybe they're self-employed, or maybe they can't get coverage somewhere else. If we're trying to create a healthier pool, should we look at saying, let's do employee and then employee plus child, employee family, and skip the employee spouse? Have you seen savings?
Like carving out that altogether, like
Right.
not offering employee
Correct.
spouse coverage. I haven't seen it in public sector. You are permitted to do it legally. We have some clients that do it in a different way, meaning you could make them sign a affidavit saying that they don't have coverage elsewhere in order to be on your plan. I have a law firm that does that, for example. Others, like my own organization, just did this year, does a spousal surcharge, where if the spouse has coverage available through their own employer, and they come on your plan, they have to pay a penalty, basically a surcharge on top of the regular premium for someone that doesn't have a working spouse. So those are
Does that
two
move the
levers.
needle on any of those options that you've seen?
It does. So you'll have fewer people that will have their spouse covered. I'm kind of laughing right now because I have clients who their spouses are complaining because they have people coming on and off of their plans due to what my company did to our own benefits. So you do see movement.
But in the right way, does it make the collective pool healthier?
Spouses are the worst risk on a plan, like generally. So yes, it can work. But I think that that's not going to be what saves the plan in general, but that is a strategy that you could look at.
I'll say a lot of companies do that, but it was actually cost saving for my spouse to pay the fee for me to be on his
Mhm.
with ours. So like, it depends,
Right.
you know.
You're not going to get everyone off of the plan.
Yeah.
They're still going to make that decision, but it's, instead of saying you're excluded altogether, it's
Yeah.
a way that you could still offer the choice but charge more for it.
Right, because inherently, we're gonna have more risk in taking that person.
Yeah, exactly. All right, the next thing that we will talk about are network changes. We looked to, we went out and looked at different TPAs. So in addition to Florida Blue, we went out to market and asked for different TPAs to propose not only their fees, but their networks and what's available. And so we had Blue Cross gave us their own Blue Options, PPO network, what you have today, Broad National Network, and they also proposed their Blue Care Network, which is a Florida-based HMO network. It has almost all of the same doctors in our area, but not all of them. Hospitals in the area, we don't see a disruption, but once you get up to Mayo Clinic, that is out of network with Blue Care. You also don't have coverage outside of the state of Florida except for emergencies, urgent care, and pharmacy.
What about like Shands and stuff, the children's medical?
So I just went through all of this for another client. I believe that Shands is in network, Nemours is out of network, but I could have those reversed. I have the full analysis.
Can we double
for
check
you.
on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So with that, you could keep your same 4 plans, and instead of having a 17% renewal, you would have a 7.9% renewal. Now, I wouldn't recommend that you only offer a Blue Care HMO network, because some people might need that out-of-state benefit or want to buy up to that, or they have a child that's away at school that they want to have full insurance for, not just for emergencies. So there are some options that you can combine them. So Stetson does that. They have a Blue Care and they have a Blue Options plan, and it just costs more to have the bigger network. So we can look at that. Overall restructuring of the plan. So this is something that I think speaks to what you were asking about pharmacy. Can we steer them to lower cost, better providers? And that is the concept that we're looking at here. So steering employees to lower cost, higher quality facilities, pay on a fair, transparent price for services rather than a percentage of billed charges. So if you can do this, and we're going to show you the mechanics in a moment, then you can offer richer benefits to employees that make the choice to go to those lower cost, higher quality providers. And they still have the choice to go to others, but there is going to be a higher cost for doing so. And that is not something that I've brought to the board before. It's something I've been talking to the staff about for about 1.5 years or 2 years, and vetting through different options there. And so we want to just show you what that would look like and take any questions that you have. So this is a table because as I was going through this over the past couple of weeks, I thought it was helpful to just at least see it all line by line, and then we can come back. The as-is renewal, as you can see, the 22%. If we remove the GLP-1s for weight loss, it goes to 17. The alts 1, 2, and 3 are for plans that I will show you, but they are not what I would recommend. They involve either moving everyone onto your current base plan, or moving everyone onto your current base plan but at a higher deductible and out-of-pocket cost. Or the final option is your current base plan paired with a slightly less generous HSA plan.
I have a question about our high deductible. It also has a co-insurance?
Yes.
And that's what I found to be actually shocking. I think that's part of the problem because typically when you have a high deductible, once you pay the deductible, that's it. But our high deductible, you keep paying that co-insurance. What if we remodeled it so that it's a more traditional high deductible, and then see if we can move people off the PPO? Because previously the PPO is the one that's always in red. Is that still the case?
It is, and let me get there, but I'm going to tell you just one thing about the HSA plans. They can be, there's one rule about them. They have to have the IRS minimum two rules. IRS minimum deductible, which right now is $1,700 for single and $3,400 for family, and they can't have an out-of-pocket max that exceeds the maximum for that year. So in between that, it can have co-insurance. You can put the deductible and make it 100% covered, which I'm going to show you an option on that in a second. Or you can have co-insurance, which most of my clients do a 20% co-insurance once you've met the deductible. So you're paying the first $3,000 and then 20% up to $6,000. If you make it a $6,000 deductible and then no co-insurance, they just get there faster, right? So they pay the full high deductible and then nothing else after
I think the
that.
people in a high deductible, they need kind of like, what is that amount that I have to save for to put in that HSA?
Mhm.
And when you say that you have a deductible plus co-insurance, they're like, why would I do that? Nobody, lay people do not understand that, oh, according to law, there's this maximum. Why not just bake it in so we can make them feel more secure in making that choice?
If we made the deductible, right now you have a deductible of $2,000. If we made that
That's
also
for
the out-of-pocket max.
a single person.
If you
Okay.
made that also the out-of-pocket max, it would just cost more. So the plan itself, the
Well,
premiums would go up.
what would be the deductible with the, let's say, what's the average 20% co-insurance? What if it's 4,000, right? And then we make that but it's a concrete number and not some, hey, 20%, you hear horror stories. I got $1 million medical bill.
Oh, because the out-of-pocket max still caps you. So on your plan,
Okay.
you have an out-of-pocket max. So you have a $2,000 deductible, 20%
Right.
to a $3,500 out-of-pocket.
Okay.
So instead of making the deductible $3,500, which is
Yeah.
truly that like limit, we've layered it, so they're
I
only
guess
responsible for the first
I'm
part.
less concerned about the individual and more concerned about the family,
So the
because those are the ones,
4,000.
but I think it's more than that, isn't it?
No, the deductible on your plan has an embedded $3,400. If you have a family plan, one person has a $3,400 deductible, then the family in aggregate won't pay more than $4,000 between the combination. And then is it 20%, Joshua?
Yeah, it's
Yes,
20%, 3,300 is the embedded deductible.
And what's the max
4,000.
out of pocket?
7,000.
But each person has their own 4,000.
Right, which, I think that's also a little unusual. I think if we tweak our high deductible to be more appealing, more predictable, we would get more families.
All right, let me show you some other stuff too. On alternate 3 and 4, we already talked about the different networks, so let me go ahead and show you the model. Oh, I should speak to that. So, 2 things. One, the notes at the top you can see, but the PBM savings are not factored into these, meaning once we have a decision, this will change. You're going to see an improvement no matter what, because right now we already have one. The other thing is Alt 5 and 6 are the ones with the tiered network, or the tiered benefits, sorry, not a tiered network. And if we assume a savings on the facility claims of 35%, which alternate 5 is what I'm comfortable with, alternate 6 is something that is realistic, and you'll see why in a moment. But on alternate 5, if we have a 35% savings in facility, then you would have a decrease from your current funding rates. You would have a 4.9% decrease. And we would also be able to enhance the benefits, as I'll show you.
And real quick, so in your packet for Alt 1, Alt 2, Alt 3, and also included in this PowerPoint, you have the breakdown for what that plan would look like, out-of-pocket maxes, deductibles, things like that. We'll be diving into actually what 5 and 6 look like for those, just as reference. So we'll get there here in just a little bit after.
Yeah, I'm not
PBM.
understanding how we get savings on facility claims.
You'll get
That's
there.
what okay.
This is
Just a side note real quick. I'm sorry, the health center that we don't call it a health center. What do we call it? Wellness center. Sorry. What type of participation are we getting there? Are we getting up to what we need? Is it that they're going there maybe for their blood work but not their chronic conditions?
Yes,
What's
we have
the issue?
additional information. We've got additional information on that coming.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
But just in a nutshell, you are outperforming every expectation with your engagement at the health center.
Awesome.
Wellness center. This quick hit is just what we are doing for you. So you are part of a group purchasing organization for pharmacy, which is RX Benefits. Right now you're with CVS Caremark, but they have access to CVS, Optum, and Express Scripts. It's 3 million employers with 3,000 employers with 3 million members, and those contracts are renegotiated every year. So we don't have 2027 pricing yet because we're so early in the year. You're on 2026. They do release those over the summer, and so if you were to stay with RX Benefits, you would go on to the 2027 enhanced pricing. The additional group purchasing organization opportunity is through our Managed Pharmacy Alliance. So Brown & Brown has a team of 200 pharmacy consultants that we tap into for this. RX Benefits just joined the Managed Pharmacy Alliance also, so that we can offer their service model for certain clients if they go with them. But we have access to things like Right Way, who partners with Mark Cuban's Cost Plus pharmacy. I'm not sure if you've seen anything about that, where it's, why are we paying markup? I just want the drug for the price, and then you can pay a slight admin fee.
Yeah.
That's the model, and he's actually done that for all of his health plan. So the businesses that he owns, he does everything direct contract to Cost Plus. The Med Impact is who is leading the charge right now. They are the largest independent pharmacy benefit manager, and they only do transparent pass-through pricing, meaning it is an admin fee, it is not a spread pricing. Welldyne is another one. Right now, we are looking at Med Impact and pending the Right Way proposal. So when we come back to you again, we'll have all the details on that, but I wanted to let you know that's where we're at. Some of the disruptor PBMs that are out there, like Right Way and Med Impact, include additional savings tools like the manufacturer's assistance for brand name medications, not just for specialty. There's some patient assistance programs that they help the member work their way through if they want to. Nothing is forced. And then cost of care navigation. And if you can go to the next slide. The only other point I would say here is that it is a transparent pass-through with, there are no games. And I think I've told the board before, because I'm pretty candid, it's murky on purpose. There's so much ambiguity within pharmacy pricing that none of us really know what the pharmacy is getting paid versus what you all are paying for that medication. Like, that's difficult to ascertain. And so we have a transparent model that you can tap into. The Right Way typical savings is 15 to 25%. Med Impact is 10 to 20%. That's if you take advantage of their international sourcing and additional programs that we'll talk about the next time I see you. When we show an 8%, that is the guarantee within the contract. It can outperform that based on these programs.
And this is access to the same prescriptions?
Correct.
It's not like, okay. Why is it then that we would get different pricing on international? I thought we had like a most favored nation kind of agreement.
That's something that the president is working on, but that is not rolled out to the greater world.
And real quick to touch on the drug list, whenever if we did entertain the possibility of going to a cheaper PBM, what we do is we have them pull a disruption analysis, so that way we could see based on our current formulary and what it would go to. That way we have an understanding of, hey, if we're gonna go with saving 5%, 8%, 9%, but it's going to have this impact on our current employee population, that's something we take into account and would have in front of our insurance committee and also have that available for you all.
All right, this is a program that helps those with complex conditions. And if you all think that this is a good idea, which every client I've spoken to did, we do need to launch this a month before open enrollment. So that would be April, you do May for your normal open enrollment. The reason for that is if the employee is accepted into the Samaritan Fund program and they get the free medical care for the year, they need to decline Flagler School's health insurance during open enrollment. And so that's the timing issue.
Can you walk this through again? Okay, so you're saying that somebody who's already ill, has something massively, you want them to decline health insurance?
No. What I'm saying is that the member, instead of being on your plan, if they apply for this program, gets placed on an individual plan with the same doctors and prescriptions covered, and that is funded, the premium and the out-of-pocket costs are funded by the charitable donations.
And where do these donations, it's a nonprofit agency that's running this?
Yeah, can you
Where are
get
they
us there?
pulling the money from? And how do we know, like, how solvent do we know it is? How successful, like, we don't want to move to something like this and then boom, this thing, goes out, it's
Yeah.
like just a fancy GoFundMe or something.
Yeah, and everyone's like, what is the catch? So I've vetted that too. I have university clients that their charitable donations team have vetted it, and so I don't know how you do that, frankly, but they're a 501c3 nonprofit created to enable eligibility for grants and charitable funding.
And this is the name of the company, the
Correct.
Samaritan Fund?
So
Okay.
the Samaritan Fund Foundation is the 501c3. The Samaritan Fund Program is a for-profit entity that administers the funds to the members. So there are two different entities. There's the foundation.
That's how they get the grants without paying the taxes, and then they give it to their own business to administer?
They only use the funds that are in the foundation to purchase individual health plans and pay for the out-of-pocket costs of members.
Do you know if, so this specific, because I know that they're in, I don't know if it's this one or others, but there's similar organizations. So if I'm, someone looking for that, I have the insurance, I apply, is this one that says, okay, what is your diagnosis? Because they only have a certain amount, and I'm asking, because I know
Yes.
some do.
Yes.
Like, if I have a certain diagnosis and I click on that, or that's what my child has, and I know the medication is going to be $9,000 a month, so I do all of the things, upload it, they only have a limited number of diagnoses. So I'm wondering, is that like this?
That is not the model.
Okay, because there
but-
are models, so I just want to
Oh,
make
wow.
sure, because I would.
I think the biggest thing
Yeah.
with this, as we start looking at like some of the samples of it, is this individual would apply for it, and then if they are accepted, we would pay $55,000 for those individuals to be a part of this program. And we
The
can,
$55,000 is your payment for that concierge to place them on an individual plan and to not go away afterwards.
Is that
we are still
all
paying?
toll or per person?
$55,000 per person that is accepted onto the plan. And so, for example, I have a 2000 life group that they had 2 people that were accepted onto the plan. I have, Stetson had 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's certain thresholds it has to hit. So say, I'll use me as an example, right? Getting to the end of this plan year, right, say I'm on the health insurance and I get diagnosed with a condition that I know is going to be long-term. It's going to be very costly. I'm on the insurance plan. Come April, I go, all right, I need to get some assistance. I apply to it. I sign over information so that they have access to all my medical data and medical records. It then gets reviewed by a nurse that goes, yep, based on this condition and what we see, looking ahead to the next plan year, it is going to cost, let's say, $150,000, right? It would cost in medical costs and pharmacy $150,000. Goes back to Brian and Brown. Brian and Brown's able to go, yes, eligible. We would pay $55,000 for what would have cost the plan $150,000.
If I am an employee and my max out-of-pocket cost is $7,000, why would I do this?
Because you have no out-of-pocket costs on that plan, 0.
So-
Not any co-pays, deductibles,
They'd have to,
premiums.
so this is a chronic condition that they'd have because,
Go ahead.
like, let's say that I get cancer in the middle of the year, I wouldn't know that.
Correct. So the one thing about it is that it is based on your plan year. So you all are a little unique. I was telling Bob and Joshua about this. Since you do open enrollment so early, we would need to advertise it in April, and employees would reach out. If they are accepted into the program, they can decline your plan in May. Well, what if something pops up and they have a new diagnosis in June or July or August? Because your plan doesn't start until September, we will re-communicate that, and we can move them from your plan onto that.
From the, let's say the last couple of years, the conditions where it drove us into using our risk pool, were those conditions that folks would have known earlier on? Sorry. Look at that.
I think it's like 2 pages.
Are you chat GPTing? What are the questions that Janie and Ruddy is going to ask?
Like 1 page ahead of
I'm
you.
just,
All right.
yeah.
I always tell the team that I train, I anticipate every question, so hopefully we're
Nicely
doing
done,
that.
very good.
So the common conditions that qualify are cancer, ongoing cardiovascular conditions, organ failure, childhood diseases, inflammatory autoimmune conditions requiring ongoing specialty medication. So you can see it's a variety. Some of these conditions are lifelong. There's one that if you go to the Samaritan Fund's website, you can watch some videos. They also have a weekly webinar that's hosted by the CEO to kind of talk about the mission. But one of the videos is about a child who is wheelchair bound and has a birth condition, and they are on Samaritan Fund year after year, and they love it and think that it's the best thing ever. You don't have to pay anything for the insurance. The ones that are more short-term are, what if I have breast cancer and I go through my treatment, and then at the end of that year, you go back through the approval process again. So each year during April, your team that sends out the information for open enrollment would say Samaritan Fund, they would go through the underwriting again. And if they are better, thank God, they just go back onto Flagler School's plan during open enrollment. The other guardrail that we need to put on this is, especially given your participation, is that in order to qualify, you need to currently be enrolled on Flagler's plan for 2025. Because we don't want somebody just coming out of the woodworks and saying, I want free health care, and you weren't, like, that's not fair to the premiums for everyone else in the plan.
So do they continue to make their premium payment? No. So we send out 55,000.
Correct.
For that year. There's no more premium for the patient.
That's
Okay.
all funded out of the 501c3. So the premiums,
Oh,
and then they get a
do we
loaded debit
do
card.
we receive the premium from the 501c3? No.
They're not on your plan anymore.
That's, so and then what about in the next year?
In the next year, they would go through the same underwriting process and approval denial process. If they are accepted to stay in the program, they just get it again.
But we have to then pay another 55,000 every year?
So like,
If they meet the qualifications. So remember, the minimum amount of projected claims in order to qualify for this program is 100,000.
Okay.
So that's not an employer.
So we're at least going to save 40%.
yeah, the cost avoidance would be.
How much would, in an average, because we have different plans, what would we have collected in premium, or in?
Oh, the most that you collect in premiums maybe 10,000 a year,
Right,
and then you're
okay.
paying out 100,000 in premium.
Clearly, the math goes, the math works.
Yeah, right here it's
Yeah.
saying that we would have saved $2.1 million.
And that's if all of those
That's if they
18
opted
people
in.
opted in, qualified, and wanted to go in that direction. Now, the ones that I've shaded in blue are some of the conditions that would have likely been accepted based on the history of those conditions, how long they were going on for, and what it was. So you could, maybe 3 would be great. And we don't account for this in your renewal projections. So I'm not going to gamble and say, we think your top 3 claimants are going to take this free care.
This would be just gravy because we don't know.
Correct.
Okay.
And then I think furthermore, it's somebody that is going through a really tough diagnosis and treatment, to not have to pay further premiums and their deductibles is huge.
That's the what's in it for me.
Yeah.
Right? Because otherwise, you're just doing it to help out the district.
Yeah.
Their benefit is that no
And I welcome
deductible and
anyone
no
to
copays,
look
no-
up the Samaritan Fund program and watch the videos, and you can participate in the webinars. It's been life-changing for several of my members.
I really appreciate you bringing something unique like this forward.
Thank you.
Now, they're not related to Samaritan Ministry.
They're not,
Also
no.
Sure.
Yeah, but
I
if
assumed
you,
that.
can you go to the principle of the
Yeah,
Good
sure.
Samaritan is where the name came from.
Yeah, here we go.
So, inspired by the parables, of the Good Samaritan, they exist to bring peace of mind, financial relief to employees facing serious medical conditions. So, that's truly the mission statement.
And just to what Ms. Ruddy asked earlier, for the sustainability of it, are they doing like some direct negotiation with the healthcare provider? Are they just paying the full rate like we would?
They're paying individual premiums,
Okay.
so an individual policy, and
Okay, but so essentially, they're creating their own, network of policies. Are they self-insured, or is it?
no,
Oh.
it is not a group plan.
Okay,
They
so
are
they're paying a
purchasing an
premium
individual
to another-
to transfer the risk fully.
Okay, all right. So all they have to do is calculate that they have raised enough money to pay the premium, not so much the
Correct.
procedure. Okay, got it.
Yeah, and that has been, I'm trying to find how does this work? I think it is funded by people that really want to help address a problem, which is higher deductibles and out-of-pocket taxes have become common, and people can't afford their medical care. And so there are charitable organizations that will say, I'll buy a $0 health insurance. Now, you all, entire role of the district, the HR team, is to say that this program exists. This is not one of your employee benefits. This doesn't go in your guide.
Right.
This is a program that exists, and if you apply and want to decline the health plan, you have that ability.
So how does that information get to the employee? Because, you know, with HIPAA and everything, our HR team
We don't
can't,
target
right?
the employees. It is sent out
So it's
to
just general.
everyone before
Okay.
open enrollment. And if there were employees that have, let's say, come to anyone and said, I have FMLA and I can't afford my bills, and have expressed that, you're welcome to say, do you know about this resource?
Right.
But there isn't going to be, we're pulling claims from Blue Cross and sending out
Okay.
targeted mailers.
And I just want to be realistic, because many of these diagnoses, you're not always going to know about, like an acute cholecystitis, you know.
I looked at the
breast
history of
cancer.
how long some of this stuff was going on for, is the only reason why I highlighted those.
Like,
Sometimes the primary diagnosis is swirly too, but they had claims that were happening for multiple, like 7 to 15 months of the ones that I highlighted that were questionable.
Now, is that 55,000 a lump sum?
Correct.
Or is it paid out? Because here's, you know, just, you know, worst case scenario. We have somebody come on.
I know what you're.
We throw 55,000, next month they
Yeah.
go insolvent. What is our liability now? Because we've paid out 55,000.
As far as the foundation going insolvent?
Right.
So they prepay the premiums.
Uh-huh.
So the premiums are paid for that employee.
Okay.
Now, the other issue that I have had come up with clients is, what if somebody were to leave?
Just leave, yeah, and you paid 55,000.
And you've paid 55,000, that's just their own
We'd have to put
individual
that in a
policy.
contract.
Like, you can't claw that back because it's truly, you don't own that policy.
So if they're no longer an employee here, then will they still get, do they still get that coverage for the remainder of the year?
For the rest of the year. Now, the counter argument to that is, if they would have stayed on your plan as a COBRA member, you'd still be on the hook for all of those
Or maybe
claims.
they're too sick to work, so then, you know,
Correct.
you don't want to hit them with a.
But then, the only obligation we have is for that plan year,
Mhm.
right? So after that, if they leave.
They couldn't reapply if they
Right,
were no
through
longer an
us.
employee.
There's no like a COBRA for this, right?
Correct.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Very good. I mean, it sounds too good to be true, really. I mean, if somebody can get approved for
Yeah,
it.
they can
and,
get approved for it.
You know?
I think it's one of the most exciting things that I've been able to bring to an employer.
Okay.
So there's some more information in there just about like how it works, really kind of getting down, things that we've already kind of shared here at the table. So
Like a
that's,
graphic.
yeah. So that's there for you just to review, just as we kind of continue and move forward to our next
And we wanted
segment.
to include that in there so that when the committees and the
Yes.
community looks at it, they'll have all of that information and not rely just solely on what we're saying. They can see
Right.
it in writing.
And the only other thing I want to clarify, when it says that our office approves if it's over 100,000, we need to verify that they work here.
Sure.
So we say, yes, that is a person that is currently on the plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're not doing the medical underwriting. All right, so creating a sustainable health plan is kind of the next section.
I think that's an oxymoron.
Right? Sure has been my mission. I've been podcasting it up for the last several
Are
years.
you really? Oh, I'll have to look that up.
I can share some good ones for you that you will get hooked on. So really what I want to talk to you about for the next few minutes is, regardless of the discount, so we looked at Blue Care versus Blue Options, and we talk about discounts versus billed charges, and we want to get the carrier that has the best discount off of the billed charges. And with the passage of the Consolidated Appropriations Act in 2021, the CAA, there were some compliance things that employers and health plans and hospitals and everyone have to do. And even as a benefits consultant, I just looked at it was, why do we have to post that we have machine readable files on our website? And without really understanding the purpose and the intent behind that law, I didn't realize how powerful it would be. And what we've found is that there are tools, free tools, that you can tap into transparency data, and that carriers are no longer allowed to prevent employers from seeing your own pricing specific to
Yeah.
a hospital, a facility. Now, they do. So we still do not have access right now to your specific claims with Dr. Bob, or what was paid to Dr. Bob versus what the billed amount was. We have it in aggregate, but we don't have that. There is a letter that I've just gotten from an attorney that you could actually send to Florida Blue saying, we have rights to this, please send it over. There's also anti-steerage clauses within every TPA contract. And I have to say, I have 17 years of strong relationships with carriers, but I work for clients, and especially public sector. I'm passionate about it. Ask anyone that I've been on calls with. Not being able to steer members to a lower cost, higher quality of care because there's a contract prohibiting that, it doesn't make any sense to me. If we know that something is the same exact test, the same exact quality provider reading that scan, and it costs $1,000 at hospital A and $10,000 at hospital B, why can't we have that information in order to better inform
So you
our
can't even
people?
provide the information, or is it that you can't just say, well, that one's the better one?
The carriers in the world, even the one that you're with now, we have a lot of clients with, you cannot set up benefits to steer members one way or the other. We cannot say hospital A costs less, we want the copay to be $50 there. It is not allowed. So what the CAA did is they do not allow the gag clause attestation that we all have to do, prevents us from not having the data we need to make those requests. And now that we have the data and can see the costs specific to each hospital and facility versus what their costs are, because that's also a law that they have to file what their costs are every year. Well, now we have the information needed to do our fiduciary liability or our fiduciary obligation as stewards of a self-funded health plan and steer members to the lower cost, higher quality care. And so that was the missing piece. So if we can go to the next section, this is what I was just kind of hinting to. It's not only, but I do want to look at that for a second, because as a self-funded plan, most plans that are not governmental are overseen, governed by ERISA. And ERISA was enhanced with the CAA, but it also applies to public sector clients. Any self-funded client has a fiduciary obligation to be a responsible steward of employee and public funds. And now you have the data to guide informed decisions, and if you do not use the data, then there is an argument that you're not doing anything, right?
Right.
And so I have university clients that are calling me because there are beginning to be lawsuits out there of people saying, well, why didn't you find me a lower cost facility, or why is my insurance going up so much? And literally within the last 2 years is when this data became available, and now there are tools that make it easier to gather. And so if we can go to, this one is really just looking at your spend from hospital based on location. And so you can see you've got a lot of spend within Advent Palm Coast, which of course we're right here in the community. Third is Advent Daytona, then Flagler Hospital, which is up in St. Augustine. You have some in Mayo Clinic, Baptist, Halifax, Orlando Health, and so on. Hospital spend is making up, let's see, what was the total hospital? I believe it was $9 million in hospital spend. All right.
So that's interesting, because I know our hospitals in town don't provide, you can't deliver babies there.
Correct.
So I'm surprised
They're
that
probably going down to Advent
Flagler
Daytona.
and Halifax.
Yeah, Advent Daytona has an excellent, that's where
Is
a
that
lot
the
of my
new-
friends have
the
their
new place?
babies.
I'm trying to
Mhm.
find that one on the list.
It's the third one down.
Oh, okay.
It's
So
the one
because
that's
I
on,
was like, oh, if it's
LPGA.
It used to be the Halifax and then the one in St. Augustine. I was like, that's too low.
Yeah.
You know. So okay, that makes more sense. Thank you.
And when we look at number of members versus number of claims, same things we were talking about with pharmacy, like one person could be going for multiple services because one episode of care could have 15 claims on it. So that's what the claims versus
So
members
like
is.
Miami, is that like? So this is not emergency care?
It's
or is this like
everything.
Okay, so if somebody was on vacation in Miami and got hurt, that's probably why.
Correct.
Okay, I see.
All right. So this is what has been like really empowering and so cool, and there is a link to it within my like live presentation. We will send it out to you so that you can access it. It's free, it's public. It's called Sage Transparency 2.0. It was launched in May of 2022 and updated again in May of 2024. And it aids employers, policymakers, researchers, and the general public in making informed, evidence-based decisions. It highlights the wide variation of pricing and quality across providers. It shows the break-even cost data for individual hospitals, hospital systems, and states, and quality metrics specific to individual hospitals. So when we're looking at this today, I'm looking at facilities. I'm not looking at individual providers. I think that if you have to start anywhere, it is your facility claims because they're driving the bulk of your spend. So one thing that I want you to just keep in mind, and I'll call it out again, is that when we're comparing the ratios, we need to look at the total inpatient, outpatient, so I'll show you that column. But as you're going through your own tool, you might be like, well, why is it so much, they're charging so much for outpatient provider? And really, there's one column that you can make an informed comparison with. Okay. This is not specific to Flagler schools. This is to paint a picture that is incredibly frustrating. Florida is the most expensive state in the U.S. for medical care under commercial insurance plans, and there are several others below the all states median that we removed for spacing on this exhibit. So the median is 269% of what Medicare pays is what the median prices for a Blue Cross, Aetna, Cigna, a normal insurance commercial payer to pay. And in Florida, they pay an average of $380,000 or 380%. The break-even amount is 137% in aggregate. And so the delta of 380 to 137 is the profit. This is an aggregate number, right? So we'll dig into more granular. So how do we use that data to design a better health plan? Direct contracting, we can directly contract with high-value hospitals and facilities for bundles. We can do a maternity bundle where that whole episode of care is in one bundle. You can look at imaging and MSK, musculoskeletal services, the same way. There are predictable prices and quality guarantees, and you remove the middlemen. You pay them like you pay your, I don't know, any of your bills that the district pays. You don't rely on a TPA for some of that. You truly just pay them. I had 8 babies. Here's 8 times $100. Hospitals and facilities win because they eliminate that lengthy payment time of getting paid by the insurance carrier.
What do you do, charge like a, if an employee doesn't go to the preferred hospital or whatever for that?
They pay more.
They pay more, okay.
So in the first section, or the direct contracting that I'm talking about, this is some wins for the hospital are that they get paid faster. And did you know how much money insurance carriers make on float? The money that they take or that they have invested between when they collect premium and when they have to pay a claim?
I bet.
I'm telling you, it's been eye-opening, and I think that there's just a lot that you can do for public sector on this specifically that is needed. So we've been
Okay, but in an area like for Palm Coast where we don't have a lot of options for facilities. So, you know, unless Advent is also feeling generous, what are our options?
I think that we need to continue having conversations with Advent. I think that having access to your own transparency data and say, we don't want to get paid, we don't want to pay what Medicare pays. That's not what we're asking. We want you to have a profit. But if your data comes back and shows that you're paying an excess profit, I think that there's a conversation that can be had to work out something more manageable and fair. It's using transparency data. And I think that there are 4 major payers of healthcare claims. And it's difficult to try to do one-offs along the way, but I think that you all are we're a small enough community that we can have those conversations. It's not like we don't know anyone. So I think that is something I would highly recommend is to have that conversation. The other piece is that you'll see on the next in a couple pages what a tiered, oh no, go back, Joshua. What a tiered benefit looks like. So in that model, which I'm going to show you today, you make low copays, no cost for services at providers that are willing to provide the fair price.
That's kind of what we're doing with our wellness center, but you're saying for the services we can't deliver in the wellness center.
Correct.
Let's create agreements that
We're
they
talking
go
about
to these.
cardiovascular surgery
Right,
and
the
and
big
whole
ones.
gamut.
Yeah, okay.
So let's go to the next page. This is your data. With the exception of the blue and green columns are not your data, but after the scary letter, we will be able to tap into your specific data per tax ID.
Okay.
What we do have is for, in general, let's look at Mayo Clinic. Mayo Clinic has a 297% is their average that they charge commercial payers. Their break-even point is 137%. So you can see how it swings all over the place. And there are notes and a full section about how you read this data and what it means. And it takes into consideration the financial losses from Medicaid, Medicare, charity care, and bad debts, as I've highlighted there, because that's always been the argument. Commercial payers pay more because Medicare doesn't pay enough. That is included in here when we say break-even point. And part of it is that you can earn funds by endowments and fundraising and things that mean that you don't necessarily need to charge 350% of Medicare in order to be profitable. And so every single column on here is from that transparency tool. I did not do anything to it. So net profit margin has to be published, operating profit margin from commercial payers versus Medicare, the operating profit, the CMS quality overall star rating, which that is broken out into different types of procedures. I just did the general one. So there are some hospitals that are really great at delivering NICU babies and taking care of them, but awful at knee surgeries. And so this is just the aggregate that you can pull up. But if you go to the tool, you can see which ones make the most sense for the knee surgery versus the other examples. And then the patient experience star rating is something else that I thought I would put up there because maybe it's a great hospital, but people don't like to go there for whatever reason. And then the one on the right is just a vendor that we have access to. They are not the only one that is out there, but I called them. I said, what's your experience with all of these, with this model? And they're paying 158% of Medicare at Advent Daytona. They're paying 180% at Baptist and 140% at Halifax. And there's a contract stipulating that they pay that with Halifax. So this is not something that is all over the place at this point, but I think it should be for public sector specifically. It's one of the most no-brainer things I've seen. If you have the data and it says that something should cost $20, but you're paying $2,000, then we have to do something about that. So what does a tiered network look like, and can we do this, and what does it mean? These are the plans that I created, so they are subject to change. We haven't even shown this to the insurance committee yet. I called them the new A+ plan and the A+ HSA plan. We did put vendors at the top. That is not set in stone. We will go out and find the vendor if that's the direction that everyone wants to go in. Tier 1 and Tier 2 will be based on cost and quality data and that facility's acceptance of the fair and transparent payment model or a direct contract. So the Tier 1 providers and facilities, if you are on the copay-based plan, there is not a deductible. There is a $2,000 out-of-pocket maximum, so that's the most that they'll pay, including medical and pharmacy for the year. Office visits, $20, specialist, $30. Inpatient hospital stay is $700. ER, and all of these are all-inclusive, meaning they include the provider services. The plan is paying everything above that. So $700 for inpatient, $250 for ER, $50 for urgent care, outpatient, and ambulatory is also $250. Free labs, $50 x-ray, and $250 for advanced imaging. If they go to a provider that is not willing to accept that model and they're the more expensive, then they still have access. It's a $3,000 deductible, 30% coinsurance plan with an $8,000 out-of-pocket max. So there is choice still, but there is the data to support that this is the way to go and we're going to steer.
So when you're paying a deductible, though, you may have several medical events. So is there, like, let's say that you go to 4 things in the year that get you to hit your deductible. If one of those events you don't choose the preferred facility or not available, does that kick you out so that it, essentially, now it resets and eliminates all the other credit you have?
So you'll see that the overall out-of-pocket, so the out-of-pocket for tier 1 is $2,000 and the out-of-pocket for tier 2 is $8,000. So combined, you could, worst case scenario, if you made some choices to go to bad, or not bad, but more expensive hospitals and hit your out-of-pocket of $8,000, you could technically pay $10,000 on this plan.
Right.
Now, if it's an emergency, it's going to be treated as a tier 1. There is not a you can't steer someone when they're having an emergency.
Go to
so that's something that I do need to change there as far as the emergency row.
Okay.
Outside of that, yeah, they would be paying if they choose to go to one of the expensive, not wanting to work with us hospitals, $3,000 and then 30% coinsurance all the way up to $8,000.
So we're assuming it's one medical event
and they could go
that
back
hits
and
up
forth.
to that.
No, they could have, let's say they want to
Okay.
have an MRI and that's $1,000 and they want to have, no one wants to have an MRI. They have to have an MRI, they go to that provider. We do have a mechanism to steer them in real time. So, hey, you are going to this provider, you should go to this one and you only have to pay $250 versus $3,000. But it could be a series of events that add up to a $3,000, 30% coinsurance, $8,000. And then what if you're using providers that are in the green and also in the gray? Then you'll pay.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a really dumb, naive question here. I thought that's what PPOs were, preferred providers, right? So
That was
are
the
we
original
saying,
intent.
So are we saying we're just creating our own bespoke PPO on what we're now saying, okay, thanks but no thanks, you guys didn't really help us. We're going to and
in a
what
nutshell.
kind of administrative load is that for us?
It is, you have an administrator, so Health Scope is the one that I put up there, but there are boutique TPAs that do this.
And
they are not
would be the
owned by
cost?
Blue Cross and Cigna and United and Aetna, and so they don't have rules prohibiting them from doing that. You pay them an admin fee, and from my experience, they're what you're paying right now for an admin fee.
Okay. Comparable.
Okay, so just so I understand, in this model, we have to, every plan year, have to identify different places that will agree to this price
I
model?
wouldn't say every plan year, so the intent would be to develop a long-term relationship. Now, as your consultant, we want to maintain, looking at the transparency data and say, all right, look, we have a contract with you at 180% of Medicare. Really, you're still very much overpriced there, and maybe we want to renegotiate that. But I would suggest that it's a multi-year contract and that
every 3 years we do an audit check and, okay.
So then if we say, okay, we look at the hospital costs and we say, okay, it looks like the one in St. Augustine is less expensive, right? So we say, okay, if you go there, you're in tier 1 coverage. But if you want the convenience and everything to go to Advent here, then you're in the tier 2 bucket.
Assuming that Advent doesn't come and do a direct contract with you. So what we're showing on that page is the average commercial rate. So what they're charging Cigna, Blue Cross, Aetna plans. By removing yourself from their contracts with those providers, Advent has the flexibility to offer you different payment terms
so they
without
can treat
opening
us.
that up to the broader market. That is specific to, that is an agreement between you and that hospital.
So does this kind of open up a competition in itself? For example, because if, Advent says, again, I love our relationship there, but I'm just using this as a real world example because it's our local hospital. But if there's a significant difference, we could choose to say, hey, this is the one that is covered under the tier 1.
Yes, and I would highly recommend that as part of the next several months, if we go in this direction, that those conversations are had with not only Advent and Palm Coast, but all of the hospitals that your members are going to, and say, look, we want, unless they're just an awful quality hospital for some reason you don't care, but we don't want to disrupt employees. We want them to be able to go to their hospital. But this is tier 1 and this is tier 2, and tier 1 is contingent on a fair price. We're not doing this anymore. We're not paying 5 times what we should be.
So it seems like what I'm interpreting from your data is that commercial insurance is subsidizing the loss that the hospitals are taking from covering Medicare.
That is what a hospital would tell you. What transparency data says is that they're making more than that loss.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and you know, this in a way, because this is something I've been trying to put into a format, is in a way like healthcare sharing programs, right? So how they operate is you go get the service, you get the cash price, and then you get reimbursed, right? They reimburse you. So I don't know how that works in the world of commercial insurance, but in a way, we've pretty much pre-negotiated the cash price in the tier 1, so it essentially accomplishes a similar outcome for us.
But then you still have stop-loss coverage for high-cost claimants. You still have the protections of a health plan.
Right. Because those are not insurance, those are reimbursement. There's no guarantee that you're going to get covered, but it's a promise. Right.
And it also can be difficult whenever you have very expensive care that you need, like ongoing chemotherapy and radiation treatment, and you don't have an insurance card. They can't say, we know we're going to get paid. This is real insurance.
And when we look at tier 2, right, so say whatever happens, we draw the line, there are facilities that are in tier 2 that an employee still wants to go to, right? We understand people have that relationship and they still want to go, I'm going here, right, hospital X. When you look at the breakdown between the plan deductible, out-of-pocket maxes, and everything else between deductible and co-insurance, it mirrors very closely to what our base plan is right now, with a few differences. The base plan has a 50% co-insurance, while this is being modeled at 30%. And then you see slight adjustments in out-of-pocket maximums and things such as getting your office visit copay. So what I can appreciate looking at this is it wouldn't be something like, you better do this or else you can't afford to go to the doctor. It is slight differences, but in line with what we are currently offering with our base plan.
I think one concern for me is if you go to a doctor and they say, okay, you need to have this surgery, they're going to say, well, I do the surgery at this outpatient or at the, right. So what we don't want to have happen is that somebody needs a surgery, but the doctor doesn't have privileges there. What happens in those cases?
They happen. So a member may be rerouted to a specialist that has admitting privileges elsewhere is a realistic thing.
Do you see doctors in the plans, you know, we're a large employer in the district. Are the doctors going to naturally kind of gravitate to, or how difficult is that process to ensure
I'm
privileges?
in Ormond, and my providers that I've seen typically have admitting privileges to Halifax and Advent. Now, I don't know if that's the case for every provider. I truly don't.
So
well, I guess the backup, from the way I understand it, is if they don't want to change to a different surgeon or physician, they can always just go to use their tier 2 benefit to do it the way they want to do it.
Correct.
They just
they
don't
can also
get the,
ask for the cash price and see if that's a better deal.
Well, no, that's interesting. So I assume the cash price would only help them in the fact that they would their out of pocket would be less potentially.
Well, for a visit, you're not going to get a cash price on a knee surgery. I wouldn't think. Like,
well, it depends. If you go in for
if you can pay it.
Yeah, but I mean, in the health sharing case, you do. No matter what procedure you get, even if you go in for a heart transplant, there is a cash price that you get reimbursed.
Do they work out like a payment plan under that model?
Well, that exactly, because most people are not going to be able to pay, $500,000, right? But so you work out a payment plan, and then while you submit that, then the health share pays reimburses you, and then you pay off your bill, essentially. That's
So the
how.
reason that they can still tap into a cash price is because that provider is not dealing with the insurance.
Right, they have no insurance.
That
Yeah.
costs 30%.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm just saying that's how that model works. But I know that, I'm looking at this saying, hey, maybe this is some happy medium in between these two
Right. The concepts that
offering.
work.
Right. The key is just to not pay these inflated prices. We should be paying what things should cost, and we should.
With enough for them to keep the lights on and invest in the tools and people, but it just, when I see something like it should be $5 and it's costing $5,000, it makes my head.
And I've seen it firsthand because our family uses that kind of sharing program, and it's worked out really well for us. But when I see the bills, and then what we get them down to, it's substantially less. And then you see the individual line items for like that, pill for $5, you get in charge $150. So if we could try and bridge this gap here through something like this, I think this is.
And I want to just kind of add here that what Danielle has done is, here are some options for us to think about as we go into the next cycle. For the insurance committee. They'll come, they'll look at it, make some recommendations. You will do the same thing as a board. The bottom line for us, and this is really for just the bottom line, is that we have to be able to provide quality health insurance for our educators. It's problematic to me, and maybe just because I'm biased because we're here in education, but it's problematic when our educators can't afford to have insurance and can't afford that. And so we're not looking by any means to, we're looking to have options and looking to look at all the options that are available to us to help us be able to provide a benefit to our employees. When we think about $10,000, even though this is some options that gives us some flexibility, when we think about $10,000 for some of our employees, that could be a third of their salary, right there easily, and so just like looking at the affordability of this for all of our educators. So when we're talking about this, we're not talking about just our teachers, but we're talking about our teachers, we're talking about our paraprofessionals, our bus drivers, our administrators, all our front desk, all of those individuals, being able to give them affordable options for healthcare. That's what we're looking for. We ask that you as a board take this information, pick it apart, bring some more suggestions. We ask that the insurance committee do the same. We ask that people out in the community, they look at it and give us feedback on options that maybe we haven't seen. And I want to say, we have a great relationship with our local health provider, and we're hopeful that they too will come up with some ideas, because they do want to they want individuals to be able to get quality health care in their community, in our community. And so we're hopeful for that as well. We have to have options, because what we currently have is not affordable for our educators.
And another thing, so just one other clarification. So when you're paying a premium, the premium's the same, right? Whether you, from tier 1 or tier 2, you're just paying a single premium, but you're using different deductible models and pricing models. So what I just think in general, when I've always looked at insurance, and I look at the premium, and I go, and you want me to pay $10,000 more? Right. I would think, hopefully, we would get more participation if they saw the premium, because the tier 1 has no planned deductible, right? So I mean, that in itself, that's the unknown, like you were saying earlier.
Well, and you can have a
like
baby
something
for
more predictable.
$700.
That co-insurance. This is something predictable. They know they're paying one price, and if they follow the rules that we've put into place and go to the places that we've pre-negotiated, they know that their healthcare costs, for the most part, are budgeted within their premium. Because I think that's what everybody tries to do, is budget it within their premium. And otherwise, they say it's not even worth it, especially if you feel really healthy and optimistic.
Right.
You know, you're like, well, I'm not spending that money. But with that, it's like, gosh, if something did happen, I know that I'm not going to pay any more than what's came out of my check this month.
Well, and that's why we included the HSA as the other option there, because under that, it still meets IRS rules, it's still a high deductible health plan, but then the 0% coinsurance happens.
Yeah.
And if you go to tier 1, you don't have any more liability.
That's awesome. And I think, you know, to the success of our wellness clinic, the messaging that we've done, and we've learned how to message through the marketing program that Marathon provided, we could also double down and say, you know, every dollar you spend in your health insurance really affects everybody, right? So you know, we all need to be responsible. We can't just say, hey, we prepaid for something and now I'm going to use it to whatever. I'm not saying people are taking advantage, but you know, choose this option when possible, when you're not going to sacrifice your quality of care, because really we all need to be responsible users of the insurance.
And I always look for what's in it for me, because there are people that will do things for the greater good, and there's some that are not going to do that. But there is a what's in it for me with no deductible, and that's the motivator. Why are you going to go? Why will you drive an extra 3 miles to this place if you can still go to this one? Well, it's because I have no deductible, right? You know, and I agree. We should be good. You know, as an organization, everybody should be a good steward of everything. But you know, human nature is.
I just want to take a second to thank Danielle.
Yeah.
When she hit us with the 22%. On that first slide is what we got hit with at the last insurance committee meeting.
Yeah.
And, you know, we asked, we got to start looking at alternatives, and she took a deep dive.
Really
and
good,
so
yes.
I appreciate that. And
much
the pit in my stomach got a little smaller.
Yeah, we don't have all the answers yet. This didn't have all the answers. We still have a lot of work to do between now and then.
But I'm a lot more optimistic.
So this concept has been in my brain for over 2 years for you all. The issue is I didn't have the data. Once I'm going to send you the podcast. Once I listen to this, it is the relentless health value, and it is a fantastic one. They told us about this study that had been done by a large employer union who worked closely with a consulting house, and they tapped into all of the machine-readable files and took in the other transparency data. And now we have this tool. And that changes things, because then you're not just saying, please give us a better deal. It's that this is truly what the cost is, and we don't want to pay the cost times 10.
Yeah. Well, this is great.
Well, this is encouraging. And also, we can look in, just one last thing, is that you had mentioned about the type 2 diabetes rebates.
Yeah.
Let's look at
We
that
have
too,
that.
to add that. Maybe that could
We
provide
have
some.
that written now.
Okay.
And then there are some additional slides that we did not go over. It is for just information. When you look at some of the options that we've done before and some of the options that we've discussed. So if you look at like slide 34, it's talking about if you as a board wanted to say, we want to drive down the increase by changing networks, here's what this will look like. And then it's the same thing, if you wanted to drive down it by changing your plan, here are some things, not necessarily options that we are looking to go to, again, because a lot of this shifts the cost to our employees, and that's not what we're looking to do. Some of the marathon reporting is in there. We've already said that we're hitting our metrics for marathon at this time, and then there is just some additional information that's for the benefit of the board as well as the benefit of our insurance committee and the public that is there for the continued work that we have to do on this.
Okay.
Yeah, and Danielle, what they said, when I got this and I went through it, right when you see the 22%, I'm like, oh no,
Yeah.
but you had a plan, so I know this is a lot that you put together, but I liked how you strategically, you said it and you're like, okay, but here is option A, B, C, and I think that's helpful for us and obviously the public when they open it up, so this was
I will say this is
very nice.
this is the most digestible presentation we've had on insurance, where you could actually see like, oh gosh, this is actually there's something meaningful that is could change here. You know, rather
It gives us a little hope.
There is definitely hope, and I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, right? But with the understanding that we are still
in the
running over costs,
And-
12.3%. And so that shortfall, we're going to have to make up, but here are some options to keep us from being in that repeated cycle of this.
And I think for the public too, to realize, because, you know, we keep talking about, you know, insurance, and it's expensive, but for them to realize, okay, the school district is literally writing the checks because we're self-insured, so the money that's coming out of their paycheck is going to a bank account, and then the school district writes that check, so when it gets higher and higher and higher, so that's, for anyone that's listening, like, that's kind of what we're trying to help, and then coming out of general funds.
In the simplest form,
yes,
our expenses and our revenue are not balanced right now. Our expenses are way over what our revenue is in its simplest form, and we can't sustain that. And we've already experienced increase. We've made changes. You as a board have made work towards this, but we have to think of some other options and look at a different direction. I think our insurance committee, they're ready to do that work. I know that you guys are committed to doing that work. You've already demonstrated that in what you've done for this plan year, but we have to be able to control the claims.
Can you imagine where
I can imagine if you guys did not. I mean, because you committed to, Ms. Warmick, was it 2.9 additional, how much, $2.2 million additional that the board put in last year for the adjustment?
It was well over $1 million.
Yes, so $1 million additional to
still
curb,
over that.
and we still have to adjust that. So if you as a board had not done anything differently, then that would be a different conversation. And I want to just I'll end this, and I promise, and I'm so sorry you didn't get to go to Bulldog tonight.
Oh, no.
But what I will end it with this. As things change with how our funding is provided to us as an organization, we have stuck to our budget, we've stuck to our forecasting, and so you don't hear us talking about these major cuts that some districts are having to make because we've stuck to that. So we are being fiscally responsible with our dollars. And so this is really about expenses that we cannot control. And so when we look at that, we don't want to have to bring dollars out of our general fund in order to cover this, because then that directly impacts our employees, because that goes into their raises, their bonuses, their steps, and all of those things. So we're doing our part on this. You guys have done some great work on the insurance, and we just have to continue to do that so that we can always be in the best financial position to do the best for our employees.
Thank you so much. Great work.
Thank you.
And now we're on to public comment.
It's nice to actually feel like you can fix something.
Okay, public comments, anybody?
There are no public comments.
Board member requests.
I had on there, so the Be Internet Awesome, but it looks like I just got an email that we are looking into that or utilizing it, so.
Can you clarify what that is?
So, yeah, Be Internet Awesome, it's free technology resource designed to help students become safe, confident explorers of the online world. So I saw that was marketed, it's through Google in the highlight, and then I was checking in to see if we could look into that, so I think
Oh, is it like a student certification or something?
The school district.
It's a toolkit for families and organizations, so it's targeted at like elementary schools, private, as well as public libraries, after-school programs. Is really what the target is. So it's a set of tools to be facilitated with students. So it's not just a student thing, but it's a facilitated program to bring digital literacy for that K-5 group.
Okay, so I have that on my list, just something to see if that could be utilized more with our younger youth, elementary and middle school, so just for future use. So more information on it and more consistency or implementing it more. So that's all for me.
Great. Yeah, so I know that our tech team has been doing great work, especially partnering with the AI task force run out of UF. I'm curious, in order to just ensure that we're crafting our policies in the best foot forward and the recommendations provided by that task force, there are a couple of items that I was hoping we could surface and just take a look at and one of them are the implementation or the norms around AI utilization in the classroom, like how we're integrating it. And with that, what is our best practices or vetting process checklist look like? You know, the education software is evolving continuously, and they're incorporating AI faster and faster. Just wanted to take a look at what that review looks like, what our checklists look like, and really just piggybacking off Ms. Ramirez. Specifically, I was looking at how our redefining our digital literacy to include AI literacy and what that might look like within the student's progression, and what age is appropriate to even begin that. I know Senator Leak has a bill out there which is to help protect students from companion AI, where it very much speaks to the student like a person, which can be very concerning. So just, I'd like to kind of gather some of that information to determine where are we in this landscape at this time.
Hallucination.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Mr. Kirk?
Not for me.
Board, I just wanted to look at a date. You may or may not feel the same way, but I just realized that the day after Memorial Day, we have meetings. So I was just thinking, like, as we plan things in the summer, there's kind of a rush to get back here. Maybe we wanted to move that up a week ahead.
Memorial Day is the
25th.
25th. Oh, and I see that we have a workshop and a board meeting there. Are you proposing moving the workshop up to the 19th?
Yes.
Both the workshop and the...
Right, the 1 p.m. and the 6 p.m.
Can you tell me the date again? Sorry.
The May 25th to the May 19th.
Well, you get a good memory. So you want to move it up to the 19th? Is what you're saying?
Yeah, just to give some flexibility there, if that's okay.
Just don't bring me a birthday cake with 51 candles on it.
That's exactly what we'll do here. Set off the fire alarms and all the things.
Okay, I'm okay with that.
I'm fine with that. So you said changing potentially the workshop and the meeting?
So moving everything to the 19th.
Thank you.
Got it.
Okay.
Alright, so I believe that is everything.
Closing comments?
Oh, I'm sorry, closing comments?
I just had a quick thing with the legislative session, how it's, coming through the academic side. The House unanimously passed bills that would require cursive writing, proficiency, allow marching band participate to satisfy the PE credits, and then families with students with ESD, lawmakers are advancing measures that would strengthen safety plans for students and grant parents greater access to IEP services. And then moving forward, the legislation is moving forward to require the district to post, full line budget online, total transparencies. I personally feel like with our district, any questions we have with like budgeting and things like that, we're open to get anything that we need with meetings and calls. So for us, it doesn't really matter to us, but just want to give an update that things are moving along. So otherwise, have a good evening.
It matters, it just doesn't really change.
Yeah, for us, I feel very good about a lot of things that changed, but just wanted everyone else to know. So we're doing great here. So thanks.
Yeah, I just want to thank the board and for a robust conversation today. I think, we all got to really dig into some questions and understand the problems that we're facing around healthcare and be solution forward. So I thought it was a really great conversation, great presentations. I appreciated that. I'm looking forward to the Teacher and Employee of the Year banquet on Thursday. And I just wish everybody a good night, and for all of those who have suffered through this 4.5 hours.
Yes, very encouraged with the presentation today. I appreciate all the effort staff put together along with Brown & Brown. And, you know, insurance is always one of our biggest challenges, and, but we want to make it as best we can for our employees. And we will continue working that forward. And again, thanks everybody, and I'll give the rest of my time.
Just echoing those comments.
Happy 111th day of school. Have a good night. Lots of great things happening. Stay connected, and we'll see you guys next time.
All right, meeting is adjourned.